Heads and political junkies. You're watching Cannabis Culture News Live. I'm Jeremiah Vandermeer, editor of Cannabis Culture magazine and Pod TV. Here a few minutes late today. Some sort of sound driver problems.
No, it was a sound driver problem.
What was it?
It was.
It was a sound driver problem.
Yeah, it wasn't some sort of one. There was a sound problem.
It was our drivers crashed right before the show, as usual. So, we're starting about 10 minutes late here on the program, right here on Pod TV. Hopefully you guys can actually hear us okay. I'm going to make sure that that's all good. If you can't, let us know in the chat, as usual.
Yo.
I'm just going to balance this mic a little bit better.
All right. I'm going to start this whole thing off here, guys, with I got my new D-nail. I got the Ninja.
The Ninja.
The Ninja.
Can we take a look at this with the bud cam, actually?
Well,
I'm going to get the bud cam up here.
Are you getting the bud cam up?
Yep, I'm getting the bud cam up. There's the bud cam. That's the bud cam.
That's the Ninja.
So explain the Ninja, Johnny. What is the Ninja?
The Ninja is a D-nail inside of a Pelican case, and of course, they've just stepped it up a little bit a notch, and then I got this
what
deep
makes it
dish
different
banger.
than just a D-nail? Show the cam. Oh, I see. Oh, so it's the heating system that's the Ninja nail.
Here you go.
I see.
I can walk away with this. It works out just perfect. It's nice, and of course, I keep my bong in there too. So I'm really, really happy with it. You know what? A little shout out to the D-nail guys. They finally, they hooked it up.
Cool.
Thanks, guys.
There you go. And so this has a deep dish puffer on it right now, a burner. What do you call the bowl?
It's a deep dish banger.
Banger. Banger. Good word.
There you guys go.
Love it.
And
Deep
you know
dish
what?
banger.
We're going to hit you one up here right away.
Okay, we should
There you
do
go.
that. And after that, I'll explain what the show today is about.
Here we go. Yeah, we're running a little late, but you know what? And the best thing about this deep dish banger, I forgot the carb cap, but the reclaim that's running down the back of this, like right here, guys. Uh-oh. I tried. We got
Here,
some killer
we'll switch
reclaim
you.
that kind of goes right down that stem right there, and you can see. And that reclaim, wow. Resin, amazing. So
Beautiful.
You know what? Just a beautiful thing. They came up with some kind of weird design. We were talking about it, and they did it for a reason. And I've had it for 24 hours, and you can see that reclaim, and there is the reason why they did it.
Now, I know what I was smoking here. That was the crazy Turpalicious. What is it?
Well, that's it's LHO. It's Horatio's.
It's the LHO.
It's Horatio's live resin. So he's has.
Tell us what the L in LHO, or tell us what LHO stands for completely.
Well, it's actually I think Horatio named it LHO, a D-liamine. It's a liamine extract what he uses, but he actually refines it, takes it to another step. You've talked to him about it. We've talked about it here before.
Had him on the show.
Exactly, and you know
Tastes
what?
like oranges when you smoke it.
This here has just got that licorice taste to it
And
too,
a licoricey taste, yeah.
because that's the MK Ultra that's in there.
It's
so it just
orange
tastes-
licorice. We're also having other technical problems. Our light broke, so it's not like extremely illuminated in here, except for up here.
I got a light right here. We might be able to use.
Explain this, what you brought on the show today, and why.
Okay, guys. So you know what? Today's show. You want to talk about what today's show is? We've been
Yeah,
in court
actually,
all
okay,
week.
let's do that first. So, of course, Johnny, both, and I have been sitting in a federal courtroom here in the city of Vancouver, where one of the most pivotal cases in medical marijuana history here in the country is happening, the Allard case, Allard v. Her Majesty the Queen. And this is a case regarding taking away marijuana patients' rights to grow at home. So that's right. The Queen and her stooge, Stephen Harper, wants to take away your right to grow your own medicine at home. Instead, they want you to go to some corporation, a licensed producer, which of there's 15 of them now in Canada.
16.
16. Oh, there's a 16th now.
There's 16 licensed producers in Canada, and there's 8 that are authorized to grow but not able to sell yet. So they're in testing process. So there's 26 in total right now.
26 in total.
Yeah, I was just reading that like 10 minutes ago.
Right, and I've heard that wasn't there like 26 of the potential and current LPs have had some sort of infractions that say they fudged things.
Oh, wait a second here. Weren't we talking about that in court where Tweed actually was... well, that's why I have the clean light. Guess they don't have these because they were selling medicine with powdery mildew on it and mold.
Tweed had powdery mildew. Now, this is according to the testimony of an expert witness in court.
Yes, and it was brought up
It
twice.
was Remo, the urban grower.
Yeah, he brought it up, and there was a patient in the audience, I should say in the courtroom, because it wasn't an audience, that was able to testify against that. And they brought that up. So you know what? That was one reason why I brought this clean light, because this clean light is a UVC light that helps fight against mold and bacteria and stuff like that. Something that maybe the licensed producer should take a better look at.
There you go.
Because I know Remo, as an expert grower, uses one.
Right. Now, if you've been watching Pod TV over the past couple days, you've probably seen some of our coverage of the trial. You've seen us talking about some of the witnesses they had brought up there to be grilled by the government counselors and by John Conroy, Kirk Tusaw, and the team on our side, on Allard's side. And that's Allard et al., because Allard is not the only plaintiff in the case. There's several of them, and these are medical marijuana patients. There's 40,000 medical marijuana patients across Canada that this court case would affect. So, you know, this is actually going to have a huge effect on people all across the country one way or another. But I want to go over just quickly what this case is about. For those who haven't been watching Pod TV, for those who don't know about Allard at all, this is a constitutional challenge. So this is not a case that was spawned by somebody being arrested or charged with marijuana possession or anything like that, as most of our cases have been. This is one that we're taking up as a constitutional challenge against the government for something that we think they do that's bad, and that's taking away these grows. Now, in taking away the grows with the new MMPR regulations that have come into play as of April 1st of last year, what is that, 2014? April 1st, 2014. That's when the grows were supposed to be taken away. At that time, John Conroy, the lawyer, and our team won an injunction against the ruling that they'll take them away. So since April 1st, there's been an injunction allowing these medical marijuana patients to continue to grow at home. Now, this case basically will decide whether or not they can continue or whether they'll have to go to licensed producers from now on. What Conroy's team wants to prove is that this particular action in banning the grows violates Section 7 of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And Section 7 and the violation is, it's about our being forced to choose between liberty and safety. So everybody...
It's about our right to autonomy and what we choose to put in our body.
Right, well... Right, liberty and safety and health is essentially the same thing. So the constitutional right is that you have a right to life, liberty, and security of the person. So you can't be forced to choose between those different things. So you're not supposed to be forced to choose between liberty and safety. And if people who can't grow marijuana at home have to go to the black market to get it, or risk being arrested growing it themselves, or go to the LPs, they're being forced to choose between their liberty and their safety. Because if you have to go get it on the street, then you're not going to be very safe, and you might not have any liberty once you're arrested. So this is why it's a violation of Section 7. Conroy says the onus is on the state to prove that the grow-ops themselves pose some threat to the patients or their neighborhoods and things like that. And so the whole entire government case is to try and prove that grow-ops are dangerous. And that's what they've been attempting to do in this case, and they've been trying with all the witnesses to pick apart everything they've been saying in order to show that these grow-ops are indeed dangerous, that the medical marijuana growers don't know what they're doing themselves, and that it would be much better in the hands of large corporations. So I think Conroy has been pretty good so far with some of his questioning. The government counselors have definitely been going after every little nuance they can.
I think the biggest thing they were going after when I was there is they're really focusing on dosage. And they're trying to really focus on between oral and dried cannabis. And they kept stating that, well, with dried, it's the same as oral. Because some of the publications that are out there, they were really trying to catch Dr. David Pate of saying that it was the same, but he held strong.
And Dr. Pate was the most recent expert witness.
Solid. It was
who was a pharmacologist and a botanist.
Yeah, and it was really interesting to see exactly the direction they were going with that, was trying to place that, you know what, all these big licenses, it's the same amount. You're saying that extractions, you need less, and I was really paying attention to that, and I was, you know, I myself wanted to stand up and say, well, have you ever tried dry sift? But then they got into that. They started talking more about extractions, and I think that boils down to how they were talking about the day before about how explosions with...
Oh, they brought up, of course, explosions from BHO extraction or solvents. Now,
it's a big thing.
There's a whole bunch of points that they're really trying to show. I have here sort of a list of the things that the Crown... So the Crown thinks there has to be reasonable limits on medical marijuana growing. And their reasonable limits are that the LPs will be completely in control, where the safety dangers can be mitigated. But the dangers that the government is trying to highlight, supposed dangers of grow-ops, are fires... What's that, Neil?
1 minute warning.
1 minute warning to 420.
Neil just got the 1 minute warning.
Right. So the government's saying that grow-ops cause fires in neighborhoods. They say that there's mold in grow-ops, which is a cause or a threat to safety for the patients and the neighborhoods, that there's odors that are coming out of these grubs that are offending people. But that's not, the odors thing to me, that's not really dangerous though, Structural damage, they say that when people build or grow up in their homes, this causes structural damage inside. They're concerned about children's access to marijuana.
Oh, they had a big thing about baked goods. That's right,
Right.
too. They were talking about, can you distinguish the difference between a cookie and how much THC is in it?
That's right. And so you all of these different points I'm listing, you can see in all of the Crown questioning that these are the things that they're trying to highlight and steer the conversation towards. The children's access was one of them, about the cookies and being able to tell when you have like a brownie, can you look at it and know that it's a pot brownie?
That's a 420.
Happy 420,
Happy
everybody.
420.
We should smoke some pot. I should probably hit Duchess here. You got a joint there? Oh. So the other one was that the production of the marijuana would be subpar, or
we're having a 10-second break.
10-second light joint break. Well, that's the last one I had. So production was the last one. Poor production of pot. That's what the government's going to try and...
I think...
They're going to try and say, we can't do anything ourselves. We need some corporation to do it for us because they're smarter and better than us. That's the gist of their argument.
No, I found that the number one reason...
Right, so Health Canada, Jeff in the audience just pointed out, Lum from Saskatoon just pointed out that the Health Canada themselves have a hate-on for marijuana completely.
They don't recognize it as a medicine. They plainly say that we
don't see this. They don't even recognize it as a medicine. Yeah, and they say it at the end of their press releases. Even the one about Allard, in their responses about Allard, they say, just remember, marijuana is not actually a medicine according to blah, blah. But of course, their whole mandate is supposed to be that it is a medicine and that they're there to provide it for us.
No, they're there to provide access to something that... I can't remember the whole terminology behind it.
That's a nice joint of...
The Jamaican lamb's bread.
The lamb's bread.
So, we're old school.
Bob Marley. All right, so...
Well, that brings up we're going to talk about this. Jamaica, awesome, guys.
Yeah, Jamaica's crazy right now. There's been lots of developments happening around the world, actually, that are very positive in the marijuana movement, so we're going to get to a few of those later. Some of the stuff that... they also... This is one thing I didn't touch on. They want to challenge
Let's touch on days. What did they want to challenge on the beginning days where they were...
Well, right, we're going to do that too. We're going to go back to the beginning. But one thing they do is they want to challenge the amounts that medical marijuana growers are allowed to have now. So, a thing that keeps coming up in the questioning is that this doctor that the government apparently has quoted, Dr. Ferris, a government expert.
Dr. Caroline Ferris, she done a lot of worked for MCRCI here in Vancouver. She also worked for the Green Cross Society. A lot of us people know her in town.
Right, now she's been quoted as saying 2 to 5 grams of marijuana maximum is pretty much the limit that anybody could need in consuming marijuana, and that anything more than that is suspicious. Or at least that's what the Crown is trying to have us believe. Conroy stood up and said he didn't believe that Ferris's testimony proved what they said it was trying to prove. So, but yes, Johnny just mentioned, going back to the beginning, where Sean Davey was the first witness that was called on day one.
Yes.
And I kind of just wanted to go through each of the witnesses and talk a little bit about what they brought to the case and what their whole purpose for being there was. Jeff on cam here, my man, Jeff Lundstrom from Saskatoon, Skunk Funk.
Chime in on all this.
Because Jeff was in the courtroom.
Jeff was there.
It's ridiculous.
Jeff was in the courtroom the whole time.
All of it's ridiculous. They just go around and around in circles.
Yeah.
But like I said, we're getting back to Health Canada. The very gatekeepers of the program, the old program, the new program, have no vested interest in the medicine at all. So how do you expect them? It's as bad as getting your weed from Prairie Plant System or Candyman. Those people don't even smoke their own product. You're going to eat a chef's food who doesn't eat his own meal? He'll cook it for you, but he won't eat it with you?
Right.
I'd tell that guy to fuck off. They go like, we got 241 points of quality assurance testing. Yeah, they forget the important one, the one that matters right here.
Right, and the reason that I brought up...
Try any of it. It's the fundamentals of it is ridiculous. So the new program, old program, none of them care. At the end of the day, they don't give a shit.
Well, and Health Canada, when it's under the reign of Stephen Harper, is never going to care about this because they're conservative government run. Their whole thing, they take their marching orders from old Steve, so there's no way that they're going to give a shit about pot.
When your vested interest is in privatization of public, of prison systems and
Right.
putting people in there.
Right,
You
and
have
of course,
mandatory minimum sentences for cultivating more than 6 plants. There's a reason for that.
right.
There's a reason why.
You got to ask
You're worth
yourself,
money in jail.
why, if there really is no threat to these grow ops and all this stuff, why is the government spending so much money and working so hard to keep these things illegal? And the answer is what you're saying.
If there was fires from grow ops, half of BC would be on fire right now.
No shit.
Right? How many grow ops, public or private, so underground or legal operations exist already on the program that are operating and running without any problems?
We haven't even really got into
ridiculous.
fire. Into
No,
fire
we're not
right
into
now.
fire yet at all.
We
And
haven't even gone into fire with the case.
we're going to get into fire. Karen wants to make a point here. I wish I had the crowd mic.
Health Canada sold LP, the first LP's corporate stock shares before there was any supply whatsoever, and that went on for about 6 months.
Right. So Karen pointing out.
But there's no ethics, there's no integrity towards the people that need it.
Well,
Right,
they
it's
just
true.
see it as a cash
They
grab.
can't hear, so I'm just going to repeat what she said for the people at home. She made note that the actual stock for some of these LPs trades before they're even producing medicine. And, there's a lot of these people, you keep seeing that these people, they're going public, and they're not even producing marijuana yet.
And when they do produce, it's not up to quality, and they can't keep up with the demand.
Yeah.
Like I'm supplying.
Or they're totally fraudulent and have like fake names on their documents and things
I
like
got
that.
people coming in with new licenses on the new program into my shop looking for supply because their LPs can't give them what they need. That shows you a flaw in the system. If
Yeah.
they're coming back to somebody on the old program to get better, cheaper cannabis. Like, it's ridiculous. Of course, we've already shown that it doesn't work, but they know it doesn't work. They don't want it to work so that they can continue to do the court thing. And we'll just spend more money, more tax dollars, more time. Patients will get sicker. They'll die off. Maybe they'll give up. Like, who knows? I don't give a shit. I'm going to go home and grow a garden anyways. Fuck them all.
It's because they're not using their own money. They don't care. They can put up any challenge anytime, all day long, because it's not their fucking money.
Like, you go to the court session, you watch them go around and around in circles. They're going to continue to do
We're
that
all
for
medicated.
the rest of the time. And then hopefully, if we're lucky, we'll get a decision. And if not, we'll protest and we'll file another
Well, you brought up-
injunction or appeal. And
Yeah,
they'll-
Jeff, I mean,
they'll appeal. Like,
This is an important thing that even
crazy.
after the 3 weeks of this court case, we're not finished yet. There's no way this is done. It
we're
doesn't
never
matter
gonna be
who
done
wins,
till they
it will be appealed.
Stamp legalization on the books of our justice system, and we end all this shit. It'll
Right.
Never be
But
over.
I mean, even in this particular fight with losing the home grows, right now
We're
it's
not
going
going
to
to lose
go,
our home grows. That ain't going to happen. They've
Well,
already.
if
They've
they
already.
try to.
Nah, you know what? With the laws, no matter what,
the
I'll
fight
always be
against
able to
losing
grow.
our home grows will not be over until this gets appealed all the way up to the Supreme Court, probably.
Exactly. That's exactly where we are right now
You
with
know
the
we're
Owen
gonna
Smith
end up
case.
there.
Yeah.
We're
Finally.
breaking, we're breaking for
Good.
this case so we can go to Supreme Court to fight for extractions,
Right.
which is something big the licensed producers want to see too, right?
Just how the hell are we going to pay for it all?
Well, that's the thing, and that's why.
Well, you
it's
know what?
very
Fundraising.
expensive.
There's going to be a lot
You know,
of fundraising going on.
And it's
We're going to have steak.
apparently
across
Conroy's
Canada.
done like thousands of hours of unbilled work for
Yeah,
on
I
this
know-
case.
I know. Of
And
course he has.
so if
And
Conroy's
so is
not.
Kurt.
Yeah,
But
and
I
Kurt
mean,
too.
like-
But I want to make clear to people that are watching the show about where the money actually goes to from these court cases. It's not just going to some lawyers who are sitting around,
Our expert
living it up.
witnesses.
Yeah, it goes
People are
to
coming
to
in
fly
to-
people here. It costs a lot of money to even the paperwork
Well, I was going
itself.
to say, did you see those books? Book of
They
documents.
bring in
call
a
it.
dolly.
It's the book of documents.
Yeah.
Like, the big book. That's right. Like
No, the
like,
paperwork
it's like a stack,
alone
It's like,
costs
and that's like
thousands.
volume 1, page 67 of tab 9. Like I said, round and around you go.
Well, you know what? The first day was really a testifying about more of a bigger license for a caregiver, where someone who was seriously injured. I even talked about it with Dan at work today about Sean who came in and how he was able to use his cannabis and stuff. And then we got more into. Oh, you good
Did I
there?
distract you? Keep talking, man. I'm just getting the bong
and then,
ready.
And then in the second day, where there was a gentleman that was a conservation officer that was growing for his wife, and I remember helping him get his license back in 2012, and he started with a grow tent and stuff like that, and they showed how he he tried to help for his wife and stuff like that, but because of the system, he was unable to grow because of the
Talking
moving
about
of the
David
licenses.
Hebert.
Exactly.
David Hebert, who was one of the witnesses in...
Held himself very well. You know what?
He was an expert witness, and he's also the husband of one of the plaintiffs in the case, Tanya Beamish, who unfortunately on day 2 was too ill to come in and testify.
She's very ill now.
And so we lost one of our plaintiffs/witnesses on that. Now, we do have, I just wanted to mention, we were talking about fires before. We haven't got into the fires yet, but we have Len Garris coming into the court.
Yeah.
Len Garris, if you guys don't know, is the fire chief of Surrey, and he is a real piece of fucking work.
He's
This
up
guy,
next week?
he is the biggest propagandist. I have the, hold on a sec here.
You got the same piece of paper.
I got him.
But yeah, I mean, and then we finished off with the David Pate on Friday, and he's not coming back, is he? He's done now.
David Pate is done.
Yeah.
David Pate was a botanist and pharmacologist who
Eric
testified
Nash
yesterday. He
coming
was
in.
from our side. He was fantastic. We have Len
Remo
Garris.
was fantastic.
Remo was absolutely fantastic. So,
Well, there was some
We got to go
funny
through
stuff.
days, but you know
so
what?
we're
That was
gonna
great.
keep
That was
going
great.
in the logical order here. But wait, Len Garris.
We all got
March
in trouble
9th.
for laughing.
March 9th.
March 9th, all day. Len Garris, defendant expert. Wow, this thing goes on to the 12th of March.
Yeah,
the
no,
13th.
I hope John
shit.
gives it to him.
I know,
wish I
we're
could be
busy.
there
I
on
have
the
to like
9th.
take.
Well,
like,
now this is the interesting thing about Len Garris, and I was fortunate enough to have dinner with John Conroy and Kirk a couple nights ago, and I was sort of talking to them about the case, and one of the things they mentioned was that Len Garris, the fire chief of Surrey, actually isn't against regulated grow-ops per se. He's against unregulated grow-ops where there's fires. So Len Garris is actually against illegal fires, illegal grow-ops. I don't, in the literature and stuff, it's all about illegal grow-ops. He makes claims that 24% of all grow-ops are like these ridiculous claims about fires, or there's danger in 24% of them, or whatever he says. There's this crazy shit. But those numbers do not stand up to the facts, obviously. But the numbers he is talking about, he always references illegal grows, and he doesn't separate illegal grows from our medical grows. So what Conroy told me is, he's like, I think Len Garris is in a way on our side, because he says these things need to have a regulation for them so they're not illegal, but if you push everything into the hands of the LPs, people are going to keep growing illegal grows at home, and they're not going to be regulated.
Yeah, then they're going to
So
be
in a way,
unsafe.
Len Garris is arguing for our side.
Maybe.
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 I seriously doubt he's going to see it that way, because he hates us, and he's not a very nice guy. I don't know him as a person, but he's not a very nice guy to us with his propaganda. So, yeah, I can't say if he takes care of his wife and kids or anything, but
I don't know, what are they? The government side,
the Crown.
the Crown. Okay, so she said something
All of the
about
defendants.
I've been calling them in my tweets. I'm doing live tweeting from the court case,
And me.
basically the entire time. Me and Johnny are sitting there, and I've been calling them the government council, and I've been avoiding the usage of Crown, just because I want to pin this to Stephen Harper more than I want to pin it to the Queen.
they said that they considered allowing people to continue home growing. I wonder what that all actually entailed, if there was
5
actually
plants.
even a consideration of any of
Oh,
it.
when they did their consultation process?
Well, yeah, they said that they had considered allowing that before the new program was adopted.
Right.
But I mean, fuck, you gotta remember, like I said, it goes back to like the beginning stages. These people don't care.
Well,
They
let's
don't
go
care
back
about
about-
the old program. They don't care about the new program. That's why it's all got so many holes.
Yes.
We just legalize and get over, done, man. We just need to fucking
Show up,
knock
vote.
the court systems out. Let's have a public vote how democracy should actually exist. Let's put it to a public vote in every province.
No,
Show
they
up
don't.
one day at the polls. Should marijuana be legal? Yes or no? It's a simple forward question.
Jeff,
And
they'll only do that in 2 provinces, my province and your province.
that's,
That's the only
Fuck.
place you can have a ballot initiative in Canada, is in British Columbia and
we're about to
Saskatoon.
start that
Yeah,
ballot.
I know. I heard about this.
Yeah, so-
Dana Larson's been
Dana
whispering
and I, we've been
about
working,
it in my ear.
So we're working hard on that. Sensible Saskatchewan. So we'll see. That's something we've been
Sensible Saskatchewan.
playing with, and Dana's been
Just
helping
like our
with, so-
Sensible BC idea, for those who aren't familiar with Sensible BC, that was a ballot initiative that we attempted to have put through our system. We weren't able to collect enough signatures. That's 10% of all people in all ridings across British Columbia you have to collect. I don't know
there
if
was
your
some
rules are
time
the same.
constriction to that. So we don't have
3
the
months.
we don't have the same kind of time constriction, and we
You don't.
Yeah, and our percentage, I don't
So
think
yours is easier.
a little bit higher, but we don't have a time limit. So
Ours is totally prohibitive in every way.
that's
just totally,
right. That's
yeah.
right. So we're going to work hard on that and see if we can push that forward. But I mean, we need that across Canada, not just BC, not just Saskatchewan.
Right.
I mean,
It's
that
totally
would be
true.
a huge landmark for us, but.
But on, like what's happening in the States now with these ballot initiatives, you're seeing one state at a time fall down. In Canada, that's just not possible.
And they did all that by aggressive advertising with so I saw some of their ads, especially the ones in Alaska where they pushed for, we should try and get them down and help us with our campaign.
Who I really like is that woman who was the newscaster.
Yeah,
I love her.
Off. Yeah, she's great.
She is, man.
So, we need their strategy. Maybe follow that same kind of thing and get some money in behind advertising and, try to change public opinion in a proper sense that makes people look at it in a more sensible light. So, I don't know. That's just the way I feel about it.
I agree, my friend.
But
I'm gonna hit this bomb.
But I don't know. I still want to keep my garden going too. So I hope for the best, so I can go home and cultivate my freedom and just continue to grow. So I love how you can do those bond ribs.
You know what? I do believe that the right for us being able to grow, as in how we grow tomatoes in our backyard and stuff like that, I really believe that the courts are going to prevail and we are going to be able to continue growing. But I think there's going to be limits. I don't think people are going to be able to grow with hundreds of lights, and I think there's going to be some standards put behind it. And it's more like anything. If you want to have an orchard, go get a license to do it. If you want to grow some plants in your backyard, you don't have to, right? So there's going to be some type of regulations. They're happening worldwide. We're seeing it happen. Canada's now behind in the fact, because look at what Washington, Colorado, Alaska, Uruguay, Chile, Jamaica now.
The problem is money shouldn't buy you the right to grow. I spent 12 years being a cultivator of cannabis. It's taken a long time to get as good as I am.
Right.
I don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to open an LP facility so I could provide that awesomeness. I don't see any of them beating down my door to ask me to come grow for them.
Right.
So they got all the wrong people working for them.
And of course
they're not going to get it right. They got their geeky guys in their overcoats and their white jackets that have their horticulture degree that never grew a weed plant in their life. Well, have fun, man, with your shitty grass.
One thing that Conroy, of course, one of the main things that Conroy's been trying to do is, and this is it almost goes without saying, but it's that the LPs themselves, it's just too expensive for people who are of a low income or who don't have a lot of cash to throw around to purchase from these LPs. Even if the LPs made the most perfect weed out there and it wasn't gamma irradiated.
Insurance is helping pay for that stuff.
Right.
I say that all the time. If you're physically and emotionally broken because you're sick, you're dying, you don't need to be financially broken on top of that.
Right.
Thanks for coming out.
Well, you're already sick. Jesus, they're going after
cannabis.
They're going after the most, helpless people in society, sick people.
I agree.
Yeah, it really is. And so I wanted to go back to Sean Davey here.
Shut case, not an around and around circle case, and that's what I saw. Right?
But that's the justice system.
That's the justice system.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
Hopefully we win. Maybe the judge will see that it is that circle and that it isn't justice and that is.
So let's talk about the judge for a second. The judge, his name is Justice Phelan or Felon.
Felon.
And Justice Felon. Yeah, that's a good one.
Sorry.
It's spelled Phelan. And he seems like he's an older guy. He's like in his 50s or 60s. He's kind of like, a bit of a grumpy, curmudgeon-y type of guy. And but at the same time, he seems to have a bit of a sense of humor.
Yeah, he's cracked up in court a few times.
They've been joking.
He's been joking around.
For laughing.
He himself made a few different jokes. He said he made a joke about the New York Times, a sarcastic remark saying, "Oh, the New York Times is always true," because they were quoting articles. The government defendants were quoting articles, and he was commenting on the New York Times and saying how, being sarcastic about how it was, and he's like, just like the Globe and Mail. That's what he said. So he's like knocking all the papers. And what was the other thing? He actually called Remo out and he said, "This isn't a comedy show."
Yeah, he gave us all shit.
Yeah, because he goes because
everybody.
Yeah,
because we were all laughing.
Yeah,
it's hard, man. Did you see him roll that silly joint?
Yeah,
I had to put my
man.
That was priceless.
That's okay. We're gonna get to that later. Let's do this in order. Let's do this in order. All right, so let's go back to Sean Davey because I wanted to talk about this. Sean Davey was the first guy up. This was the first witness. I'm just thinking my mic's a little hot here. Hold on a second.
That was an interesting
So-
testimony.
What, Sean
Yeah.
Davey?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
very
now Sean
interesting.
is a guy who has been using pot for a long time, since 2002, and he has a brain injury, and that's what he uses. He uses it to alleviate some of the conditions. And you know, when he first came up, they started immediately talking about this 3 to 5 gram limit being the suitable one to instantly try and debunk the amount that he uses.
Well, I think it would
They
started
focused a lot
because
on that.
Yeah,
he
he had
used from
2 increases.
2000 when he first started using cannabis in 2010. He stated he used 2 grams a day, and then when he got his license, he went to 10.
But they
Exactly.
also said that he was using cannabis since 2005, and then he didn't have a license for 5 years.
Oh, he stated he didn't have a license the whole time.
Right. So some of these people have been grown at certain times, not grown at other times, and some of that's coming up. But the interesting thing is anything they say now can't actually be used against them to prosecute.
That's right.
Yeah. So they're free to say whatever they want, and that's what Remo was like going to town because of that. He was like trying to get everything out there, so in the future they can't get his ass for it.
I've grown here, I go there, I've been here, I've been there, I've been there. I've been
I told
there.
him to shut up.
Yeah, he did. He got actually the judge repeatedly told Remo to not posit any of his own remarks. You know, because Remo kept giving his own opinions about things, and they're like, "You weren't asked." Yeah, but
Can I
Remo,
just add one more thing?
he's such a character. I just absolutely loved his testimony. It was hilarious.
Yeah, it was a good testimony.
Yeah.
Get in that.
But yeah, so Sean had tried other pharmaceuticals. None of that stuff worked for him, and that was one of the things that they wanted to show was that other drugs don't necessarily work for these patients. Marijuana is the only one that works for him.
Well, after you have a brain injury, I know because I have a friend who went through a brain aneurysm, and they put you on really heavy drugs to
Right.
help you kind of straighten your brain out along the way.
Which turn you
And
into
they
a zombie.
And they wean you off of that stuff as you go, but some stuff you never, like some anti-seizure medications and stuff, they'll never get off of, right?
Right.
Depending on how bad the brain injury was, but cannabis can help alleviate a lot of those prescription medication without having any of the side effects
Right.
of those medications.
Yeah,
I think
because
that's
there
what Davies was talking about in his testimony was alleviating some of the symptoms of the prescription medication by using cannabis, and why he started earlier on instead of not having a license. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of people get into using medicinal cannabis in the beginning, especially in the beginning of the program around 2004.
You should
right?
grab the microphone in your hand, maybe.
Well,
my
it
friend.
didn't have enough
You can
length.
take it out of the stand if you want.
Originally didn't have enough length in
That's
Jeremiah.
better. That's
So
better.
yeah, so the and then of course like the program, and it took like when I first started asking for medicinal cannabis was 2004, and I didn't get a license until 2011, but I never stopped using weed the whole time.
Right.
So, but I mean, they want to shine light on all of that. They talked about uses of how much, and then of course increases of dose seem to be their focus of how much cannabis you can grow. Even though Health Canada is the one that came up with that little formula for your plant count number based
Which
on
Remo criticized
gram number.
heavily.
Well, for sure, he said that there's
He
flaws
said
to
it
that.
Makes no sense.
It does make no sense.
David
Who even
Page
came up with
got
that
into
shit?
that with
Yeah.
extractions when we talked
Like, did
about
they have
hash and
some
stuff, yeah.
scientific guy crunch some numbers for that equation?
No,
Because
and-
it's
No,
ridiculous.
they refer back to Dr. Ferris's paper on the 3 to 5
Okay,
grams.
so it's all this set, doctor.
Right. So yeah,
But
Health
no,
Canada
3 to
has some
5
weird
grams give you a
numbers.
plant count of what? Like 10 or 15? 3 grams?
4 to 5 plants per gram. So if you had a 5 gram a day limit, you normally get like 24 plants. If you had a 10 gram a day limit, you get 49 plants.
Well, I mean, it's like
If you had
letting.
a 20 gram a day limit, you get 98 plants, right?
Right,
So, I mean,
right.
that's just how the system works. So if you had 5 grams a day, you have 25 plants. And if you gave me 25 plants, I'd be happy.
Right. So quickly, I just want to get through the Sean
Yes.
Davey stuff. He also said he couldn't afford the price of the LP weed.
Well, nobody can afford
Right,
it.
and
We
they,
were sure of that.
now one thing that a lot of them mentioned was that they hadn't actually bought the LP weed because one of them said that Hebert said he had tried to get a hold of them, they wouldn't call him back, they couldn't afford the prices when he went online, that kind of stuff. And same goes for Davey. He couldn't afford the prices, doesn't trust the LPs, and that's something
No,
that's
David
something
could.
that they all
I think
said.
he could afford it because he had a good income from his accident. I think his whole thing was he didn't.
Well, at
He
first,
didn't trust it, and
fir-
he
at
wanted
first,
to be-
Well,
yeah.
what happened was actually this is where they kind of got him.
Okay,
Because at
yeah.
first he said he couldn't afford the prices, and then when they started crunching his numbers, he had to admit that he could afford it, and so that was
Totally,
kind of they kind of got him there.
Yeah.
And he threw out half his testimony. Remember, we were kind of pissed that first
I
day.
said that.
because he actually said, "Well, it's not really about the money." But he had just said the whole first part of his testimony was all that it was about the money. So
But you
he
could
kinda
see how
contradicted
happy
himself.
he was. You could see how this genuine man was on the stand with the biggest smile on his face when he was talking about being around his plants.
Yeah.
You could see genuine he had severe brain damage, that he was using cannabis medicinally, and his caregiver was looking after him for that. And I think
Right.
that's where it came into is genuine Sean. You could see how he needed cannabis and it was his medicine, how he loved being around the plant, and that just made him more happy.
I still think he did a great job, and one of the
job.
super key things that he did that was one of the most important things I think we've seen so far from any of the witnesses was that he said that he'd rather be arrested than buy the weed from the LPs. That he would put himself in front of all kinds of
That
danger.
he's willing to go to
He's
jail.
willing to go to jail.
Then buy his cannabis.
That's
from
right. He's going to grow his
a
own no
legal
matter what
source.
they do, and he said that in
Yeah.
court. And
That's
so
huge.
that's very, very
Which is the
important.
fundamentals of the case,
Yeah.
right? That I'm willing to go to jail and risk my freedom because
Bingo.
LPs just are not going to do what they need to.
Exactly.
For a ton of different reasons. I think everybody's got their own. So.
Yeah. And he said
I think
that
every
he'd be-
patient has their own.
Part of this is that they're fine with the inspections themselves coming in. So all the DGs and all the people who have had
Man,
the cannabis,
8 years,
they say it's
8
fine.
years of growing as a DG and my own
Yeah.
production license, not one Health Canada official.
No, but if
ever
Health
to
Canada
say,
wanted
"Hey,
to,
There were
would you have a problem with it,
inspections.
Jeff?
No, no.
There were
Let me know a date and time, and we'll meet you there.
Exactly.
If anybody can remember, back in I think it was about 2011, there were 71 inspections that were done around BC. Because I know some friends that they had people show up at their doors and stuff.
But that
like
was only BC. They couldn't have been the rest of the country.
And they did this quick. Yeah, you got the same thing, Ann, in the audience and stuff like that. Another injured worker, Dan. They went to his place and he had nothing, and they contacted another friend of mine to view his place, and he wasn't there. So there was that one time, but they were looking, and that's when they were doing all of those, meeting with all the dispensaries and stuff like that, and they had all these meetings. So they were digging, and that's what we're seeing now is all the stuff we saw that was happening 3.5, 4 years ago is now being all brought up in court today.
Right, exactly.
So that's what
This
we're
is how long
seeing.
it takes for these
This
things
is how
to
long
get-
it takes. So
Yeah.
everything that happened 4 years ago is what we're talking about now.
All right, and just one
they're
more,
so far behind.
One more
Turn
point
around.
about Sean Davey is the OG thing. This was hilarious. On the first day, Conroy was like, "Mr. Davey, what does the OG and OG Kush stand for?" And he's like, "Well, Mr. Conroy, I believe it stands for Original Gangsta." And so that's in the record. But we actually there's been some debate since then on Pot TV and in the Pot community on our Twitter feed that OG actually means ocean grown.
I told you, I've never heard of that.
That's
But
right.
Me too.
I'm a
These
prairie
guys-
boy, so we
That's
don't
right.
have any oceans near. So
Right, ocean grown.
I've only heard of that out on the
Thank
ocean
you.
coast.
Yeah.
Everybody
So-
out here
So
in
it's
the audience are
it's
like, that's
ocean
funny.
grown
It's
if you live in
but
BC.
Apparently, ocean grown is the. I've actually.
Oh, no, that's
I
just
heard it was
not-
ocean grown
it's
before. When he said original gangsta, I thought that it was
OG
wrong.
Kush is original.
Road was slang for hydroaquaponics.
Thank you.
Yeah, that
Is
could be. Yeah,
Right, so ocean grown was
it means you got a hydro.
it
set
means
up.
you got a hydro setup.
Yeah,
Hydroaquaponics.
that's right.
Ocean grown.
Of course, it's a euphemism.
So
What do you use, seawater?
And you know what? We didn't get into about the testimony in the afternoon about his caregiver. And
Caregiver. Brian Alexander was
I wasn't really too happy with.
He kept
I'm gonna
calling.
be honest,
He kept calling the Crown bro.
bro. And
He's
then
like,
and then
bro,
hey,
I'm never
bro.
gonna go to the LPs, bro. I'm never gonna go to
and
the
then he
LPs.
goes, well, can you disclose? He goes, well, who owns the property? Well, he doesn't want to be named. And then he went on about. He really caught him on one part, and I'm going to say it is that he built a building in 2012, and he did it himself. It was like a 25 by 35 building, and then he then says that then he met Sean in 2013.
Right.
And then he contradicts later on that, well, Sean helped him build this, but he didn't know Sean. I saw.
Right.
We talked about that.
It wasn't all
person.
perfect. Sometimes
So
that happens.
they
though.
really try to catch you, and they try.
They
like,
Well,
do.
they want to
look for
discredit.
contradictions.
and
they
you
want
know
to
what?
discredit. That's their game, right?
Right, and
that
that's
was the
actually been the
first
name
day.
of the game is ad hominem attacks. That means attacking the person instead of what the person's talking about.
Right.
And that's what they've been doing. And that's
That
actually
happened
illegal.
a lot with Ramo.
Yeah, oh yeah.
It was ridiculous.
Oh shit.
But I mean, that got shut down.
But you know, Brian Alexander, I think he did a pretty good job in a couple different ways. I think he did a good job at combating some of the idiotic line of questioning from the Crown. And, you know, part of it was this barn or shed thing that the Crown Council kept bringing up.
Grow
well,
box.
is this, so he's talking about his growing facility that they
Yeah,
built
but he
and
was
spent all this
tr-
money on. And he's like, well, so is it a barn or a shed?
He was trying
Would you
to put a
consider it
value
a barn
on it.
or a shed? It's like, well, dude, a barn and a shed both sounds like it's a piece of shit.
So
it's like, that's not really...
He
It's
kept-
a grow facility.
Let me
exactly.
say this. So he kept saying, "Is this a barn or a shed? A barn or a shed?"
barn.
And then he sat back and goes, "Well, how much, as a contractor, how much would it cost you to build this building?" And he goes, "Oh, about 60,000." Oh,
Yeah.
so this is a building then. So he was trying to put value on things, and he was trying to, yeah, it is worth 60. It's not a barn or a shed. So I thought it was more of them trying to coerce him
Well, he's
to
doing
give
both
a
of those
value,
things.
right? So I didn't, like I said, stop bullying, and that's what I saw that the defendants were doing is they were bullying, and that's what I
Fully.
kept saying in my Twitter, stop bullying, fucking Health
And
Canada.
they kept saying that Kirk was leading the witnesses, but they were leading the witnesses too.
Oh,
and they were
man,
bullying
they're
the witnesses.
So they
in
were
this.
bullying
At
the
least
witnesses.
in my opinion.
Yeah, that was my opinion. I found they were really bullying. I found they were really bullying Brian in the afternoon, and I think that's where he just kind of said a few things because they were just they're really just hammering on you. Like if I was in the courtroom and I was on stage, I'd look at them and say, you know what, I can't talk anymore. I got to go medical.
Well, you got to keep your composure.
I could. That's
keep things chill. You know,
Yeah.
take a deep breath.
No, it's
Oh, no,
funny.
no, it
it's
is.
funny the
Yeah.
point that you mentioned there, though, that the government wants it both ways, and they can't have it both ways. They
Exactly.
want to show that the LPs, or sorry, that the home growers have no clue what they're doing, or have electrical hazards everywhere, are growing in barns and sheds, have like mold. And fungus growing everywhere. and all
That's
this
right.
stuff.
It's terrible.
But
Weed
then-
full of pesticides.
But then when they spend money to actually have a growing facility that's worth it, the Crown says, "Oh, well, gee, you spent a lot of money there. You can sure afford a lot.
Yeah.
You should be able to afford to go get cannabis from an LP then, or whatever other things they're saying." So they always have ways of rooting this back to the thing they want, Yeah,
round and round.
round and round.
I'll let the
and
second
round.
day.
So-
The second day went really well.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was good. And the other
Day
thing,
two?
the other thing that Alexander was talking about was insurance. He's like, I didn't know I could get any insurance, and I didn't think I could. And so
It's hard to get insurance.
He mentioned that.
We got insurance in Saskatchewan for one of our grow
I
ops,
was
but it was
happy
a
to hear him.
nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought he did well in that regard in talking about how insurance is not possible. Because when the government, that's the other thing about this whole thing, insurance for your grows is hardly possible. Insurance for all these different things is hardly possible. So I think that
It's
the
pretty much
Crown is
impossible.
going to try and use that in two ways again. They're going to try and... the
Yeah,
Crown
but if you
wants
have
to
a
use it-
home-based grow, then you have any problems with the fires or any kind of damages, you can claim that against your actual home insurance,
Yes, that kind of thing.
right?
Right.
Not if you're using
But
a
you
high pressure
can't-
sodium bulb inside your house. I don't think you have insurance for that. That's the problem.
You can't get insurance
You might
on your
have to add
plants,
an
though.
extra insurance. No, we had insurance on the plants.
You can get insurance on the plants.
On the
Wait a
plants
second here.
because they were actually
Legal.
worth. Well, yeah, they were legal and worth value to
Well, so
us
that's
and the
good.
patients, right?
So it's just
like if we lost the crop,
it's
we'd have
just
to.
medical insurance you can't get then.
Wait, well, no. It was full coverage on fire and theft and.
No, well, I'm talking about insurance in terms of the court in this particular case. The insurance that is hard to grasp then is for medical patients in Canada, you can't get medical insurance that covers marijuana.
Oh, that's true. Like you mean like a disability claim or welfare insurance or
Right.
any kind of
what I was meaning
disability
is that
insurance.
in two ways, the government in this particular case was trying to say, oh, well, you didn't know you could get insurance, so your facility isn't as safe. So even if you can get insurance, the government will try and play up that aspect of it, that this is unsafe. But at the same time, I think Conroy should play up the fact that you can't get insurance for your medical condition to get
Can't
pot.
get insurance for any of it.
Yeah.
I've tried getting
So they're not
insurance.
insured at all.
I've tried getting insurance, and they said if you have a grow up, we'll void your insurance.
Oh.
If there's a fire or anything goes on, your insurance policy will
Katie's
be
in the
voided.
house.
Voided.
Voided.
Well,
That's another thing, and
I guess
with certain
BC is a
banks and
little worse.
insurance and stuff like that. If you were growing, that happened up in I can't think of the name of it right now. It happened on the island where they actually pulled someone's insurance because they were growing and they had to make them pay their house off and stuff like that, and it was through RBC or something like that.
If there's a break-in, and the police, if there's a break-in and the police they find your grow up,
Brian on the mic.
and the insurance company finds out, the insurance company will they'll deny you.
Right. Right, okay.
that must be a BC thing then.
Yeah.
But I mean, I had to search separate insurance through for my grow, so
Right.
we paid a higher premium and
So it's possible that
It-
there's types of insurance you can get for your pot, but not necessarily for medical
Yeah.
usage of marijuana.
yeah, to be able to pay for your medical. Well, we
Right.
know that's because people have been arguing that with WCB and
Right.
other places
This
to
guy.
cover medicinal costs
I
of
have
cannabis.
WCB and Supreme Court of BC that will be happening in Chilliwack probably in the next couple of years to have cannabis covered in alternative medicines for seriously injured
They
workers.
got no trouble
And if
covering
we win
your
that,
OxyContin.
that's going to be coverage, and that's the whole thing. I want coverage for my cannabis. It's my medicine, and if I am forced to buy from licensed producers at one point in my life, and if that
They'll
isn't
pay
an
for your
option,
pills.
They
No
pay for my
problem.
pills, so they have to
No
pay
problem.
for certain things. So.
Right.
Anyways,
No double standard there.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be like that.
No. Okay, so I wanted to. We have some other stuff to do here too. Now we're going through things one by one, kind of, but I think we're doing a pretty good job so far. But I have videos to play. Maybe we should get through all of our talk first, then play videos. What do you think about that? Yeah, maybe do that. But I also there's other now. Neil Magnuson wanted to come on before his parking runs out. We got to get Neil on.
we're both on the
Okay.
same parking meter. Me and Neil both have till 5:30. Neil.
Uh-oh.
so-
Well, I'll step out so Neil can get in.
Yeah, even if Neil just pops in for a few
Well,
minutes.
Neil
I wanted
is
to
out
talk
in
Unless you
front
wanna come get
of-
cuddly on the couch,
of
Neil.
the courthouse every day.
I wanted to talk about the activism side of it, though. So let's just do that right now, Neil, before you have to go. Get you out of the way, and then we'll bring Jeff back up here.
And I would
or
definitely
if Jeff's got something he wants to
activate
say or
these.
whatever.
Do you want
Neil
wait.
Magnuson, activist extraordinaire, one of the hardest working activists in the city of Vancouver.
The sign you see behind us is what Neil was holding the whole time, and
That's right.
lots of pictures of him holding that sign.
Got a lot of mileage out of that sign since
Yeah.
It's a good sign.
It's been all
I
over the
wanted
place.
to just say hi to Katie again. Hi, Katie. Do you want a bong rip? You should come and have a bong rip on the show. Haven't seen Katie in a long time. And you haven't been on the show for a long time. So, Neil, why don't you tell us about what's going on outside of the building?
Right.
This is the cruise of activists who are really there to show the public what's happening.
Yeah, we've had a good group of people out there, a real good group on the first day for sure. Since then, we've had a small group, but we've got a lot of signs out there. We've been educating the public as they come by, getting a lot of honks from the cars driving by, and just, talking it up about what's going on out there. It was really cool that it was anti-bullying day on Tuesday, because, this is a case of the weakest and poorest Canadians being bullied by their public servants.
Right.
And so they have stickers that say every day is anti-bullying day. And we got those stickers on our signs now, on many of our signs out there as well. Because this is outrageous. This is absolute insanity what's going on here. Our public servants using our tax dollars to try to prevent Canadians from simply growing a plant for themselves that they're using for their arthritis pain and for stress. It's an amazing thing, this herb that we have. And this is a criminal misuse of public funds. It's contempt of the populace on the behalf of the federal government. They should really be taken to task for what they're doing. I mean, they're using taxpayer dollars to protect the monopolies of these LPs that they're licensing with huge licensing fees and controlling in ways that Canadians just don't need and don't want and won't accept. And thus, like you say, they'll be going either against the criminal law, well, they will be for sure either way, but they'll either be continuing to grow for themselves or they'll be going to the black market where all the risks inherent there, where there's no regulations whatsoever.
So, Neil, about the people outside, how's the crew been? How many people are out there? Is there a lot of people coming and going throughout the day? You guys have a
Yeah, it
bunch of
rotates
signs?
throughout the day. There's the hardcores that are there pretty much all the time. Bruce Myers, Louis De La Salle, myself.
Mark Emery was there.
Mark
Yeah,
Emery.
well, the first day it was awesome. There was, 40 or 50 good activists out there.
Yeah.
And we'd like to have more people out front for sure, but we've got enough that we're certainly being noticed by everybody that's driving by and walking by, and we're talking to everybody that wants to know what's going on inside and directing them to what's happening there.
And definitely we want to see more people inside the courtroom because the more support, the judge sees how it's affecting the patients and more people are starting to fill up. So it's good to see the people show up. And don't forget, we're on the 8th floor, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday next week. Come on by.
At 701 Georgia Street.
701 Georgia Street,
Yeah.
Georgia and Granville. You can't miss it because I guarantee you'll see Neil
Yeah, I'll be there.
out front. And you'll see me there at lunchtime and stuff like that. I'll be up for the courtroom, of course. But, we need
It
the
doesn't look
support,
like
guys.
a courthouse at all. It looks like a high rise on the corner.
It is a high rise on the corner.
Yeah, that's why it looks like that, I guess. Yeah.
So now we had some disruption.
Like they were trying to disseminate and discredit all the information that he was presented in the surveys that he did on the cross-section.
Oh yeah, I know the survey that we'll get into paid in a bit here.
The surveys.
Yeah. Well, But so I just wanted to go back to the people outside. So there's been a lot of very enthusiastic people outside. And,
Yeah, we need more.
Some of them a little maybe too enthusiastic.
Well, there are passionate, enthusiastic people.
We made so much noise out there that inside the court there was a distraction caused. We could hear them outside chanting, and so we
got megaphones, and we really could be influencing what's going on in there if we wanted to use those megaphones, perhaps, because that was not a megaphone.
No.
That was Steve Jensen. That was the landlord.
They'll just send somebody out there to shut you up.
Like me, I went.
Well, can they shut you up?
I went down.
Well, as a community, we don't want to disrupt things in that way.
Yeah. I want to hear what's going on in the court.
Of course.
Yeah, but I mean, you would if you completely disrupt the court. I think they have ways of making you stop.
And that's not what I was suggesting, as much as that influence would be a much better word. If there was like the chant outside of "We deserve our rights to grow," because everybody deserves to grow whatever they want, anytime they want, anywhere. I mean, this is crazy. Each human being has an inherent right to the plants, to the cacti, to the living things on this planet that we are caretakers of and entrusted with and able to use for our benefit. And no government, no fucking dictator should ever come along and say, you can't grow this plant.
True.
And I mean,
and you know what?
And what the hell?
What?
Where is the talk of danger? I like what you're saying. Like, I like to know what's going on inside. Us on the outside there, we don't get to go in and listen to the proceedings, and I know that's interesting and everything, but we do want to know.
You can go in and listen.
Oh, we can. We can for sure.
Anybody can.
But and I encourage all those people out on the street to do that as well. To go in there and have a listen to what's happening in there. It's very interesting. Yeah, we were told on the first day anybody carrying meds wouldn't be allowed in.
They said anybody carrying medicine because
I didn't do it.
We tried to. Jeff and I talked to one of the people about this. The guy who runs security there. Was it me and you that talked to him? I think it was. Oh no. Okay, it was me and somebody else then. Oh, I know. It was the guy from the Adbusters. Anyways, we asked him about it, and apparently he told us that only one person, Jen, was said that she can't bring it in because she just had too much of it. And he said there was just a way too big of amount of it, and he was concerned. They were all concerned about the smell. And what he said is that the judge made the rule that you can't bring that much in if it's going to smell. That's what the judge made the rule. This is what the security guy told us there.
Right.
So I haven't been able to independently verify.
They don't
that
search
yet,
you. They do run the wand over you. Anything metal's got to come out, and anything that's metal that's going to make the thing beep. They want to know what it is, right?
But that metal detector thing doesn't even work. He just turns it off when it starts making noise. He's like,
he knows me now so much. He's just like, I walk in. He's like, yeah, and I walk in with my weed every day.
Yeah. I have my weed in my pocket,
Every day.
and I'm not even a medical user.
Well, this stuff's not dangerous. What the hell? I mean, why are we having all this waste of our tax dollars? This stuff's not dangerous.
Yeah.
Like it was on the news feed today. Alcohol is 114 times more dangerous than cannabis. 114 times. It's the most dangerous drug that's out there. It's more dangerous than crack, crystal meth, heroin, alcohol, bar none, is the most dangerous drug, and it's available just within every city block that you want to go. And when you can't find alcohol, just look up. You'll see a sign that says drugs.
You know what the most
There'll be Shoppers Drugs and London Drugs and Rexall Drugs. Drug stores are everywhere. Alcohol stores are everywhere. This is outrageous that there's no harms coming from cannabis. There's no societal harms. There's no people in the emergency wards and police problems to do with cannabis. And we're wasting all of this money to not just on this court case, but in arresting people across Canada. This has to stop. This is a criminal misuse of public funds. They should be arrested, all of them. Harper is a criminal, big time, for what he's doing here. We all know this. The world knows this. There must be huge dollars involved for them to be continuing the prohibition so far after all of this evidence is out that it's one of the safest and most beneficial substances in our environment. This is outrageous. We live in a free country. We don't have a dictator who owns a pharmaceutical company, so then we get to do what we're told. We live in a free country here. So when we find out, or our government finds out, or people find out that there's this amazing plant, it's been 5,000 years of use as an amazing plant, but hey, there's this plant that'll help you with your arthritis and your stress, and you don't have to use pharmaceuticals and antidepressants. Holy shit, they should be all over that, helping us with starter kits to grow our own weed. Making sure you give it a tax write-off for that part of your house that you're using to grow weed. This is crazy.
But they're afraid because he doesn't be shut down.
100-year lie.
So, All right,
legalizing
Neil,
marijuana
just-
would
I
be
quickly-
extremely harmful to the bottom line
I
profits
quickly
of
wanted to go
pharmaceutical
back
companies.
to just something that just off the top of my head that I'm not totally against the idea. In this particular case, I don't think it would be a good thing to do, and I think our lawyers would be really fucking upset because this is a constitutional challenge, and we've spent a lot of money and time to be there. So disrupting the court wouldn't necessarily be a good idea in this one, but maybe. It might in some other way, though. Like in some other case, it might be interesting to go and get a whole bunch of people together and disrupt the shit out of the courtroom.
I have
don't know,
another
maybe
idea.
That might be
I agree with
interesting.
you. That's great. And
But I wouldn't do it in this
you
case.
just sparked another idea of mine, which
Yeah.
is that we should all wear
might
pink
be
shirts
kinda
in the
cool.
courtroom.
Wear
we
what?
We should all wear pink shirts and go to that
The
court.
bullying thing.
And it's anti-bullying.
bullying
Let's go into the court with pink
That might
shirts on.
just
You don't have to
confuse
say
the
anything.
judge.
The judge would recognize what's going on. People are saying they're being bullied.
You think he's that savvy?
I don't know.
Maybe.
Do you think they'd try to kick you out because you got a pink shirt on because you're trying to make a statement about something with your shirt?
I
Like,
would.
you know,
I'd try and kick you
would
right
they-
out.
would they
right
try
away
to
for a
kick you
pink
out?
shirt. No, of course not.
Of course they wouldn't.
I think
You
all
can-
you have
you
to
can wear
do
anything you want in the court.
is really, it's just like
should
with
wear a big
anything.
pink hat.
I could wear.
People
No,
just
you
need
can't
to
wear a
show
hat.
up.
Can't wear a
Just
hat.
show up.
You
It's
gotta-
not
I-
about wearing anything, Neil. It's like if people pack that courtroom
Are you
and
saying
were
come
quiet-
naked?
No, just show up.
That would work.
I don't think they'd allow that.
People need to show up. People
Pink-
just need to be in that
pink
courtroom
easier
and
to
show us
search you.
support for what
Pink
we're fighting
underwear,
for.
pink tank top.
That's it.
Pink underwear. I like it.
Show up.
I like where this is
Yeah.
going now.
Oh, there he is. What's up, man? Luis.
But this
My
is so
guardian
important.
angel over there.
I mean,
Always saves me when I'm high on acid in weird places. Luis shows up. It's true.
maybe he's not there. Maybe this is a flashback.
I think I'm on acid right now.
But people should
All right.
come down, right? They should come down and help us out front. They should come out and sit in on the proceedings in there. I hope it doesn't influence the judge too much, but I would like to think that a courtroom full of people that are all passionate and sad-eyed, watching every decision made could probably, it couldn't hurt, right? As long as we're not, being disruptive, as you say, and doing things that the judge isn't happy about. But
Right.
respectful
well, in this
people
case, yeah.
would be a
but
good
it
thing.
might be fun to disrupt court at some point with megaphones, and you get a whole bunch of people chanting, "Give us our medicine" or something. I could see how that would be a good thing.
Well, for those people that don't want to sit through a courtroom and be quiet and respectful, join us out front. I mean, don't yell so loud that they can hear you on the 8th floor
the
through the
hash
double
cam
pane
going.
glass like the
Right.
landlord was doing.
Right.
But, you can still yell without them hearing you up there.
you wanna see
Landlord
that?
was really loud. That's what was going on. He's got a voice.
yeah.
There's a little bit of dry
landlord.
stuff, guys.
But
Trying
really,
to
I
get
mean, this is so outrageous. We should
tumbles
be
like
quitting our
sand.
jobs or hanging out the windows and saying, I've had enough, I can't take this anymore. This is really stupid. Stop wasting our tax dollars and hurting our families and communities. And, yeah. Not that cannabis should
drone.
necessarily be mandatory.
Get a drone up to the court window, yeah. And
Not necessarily for mandatory cannabis use for everybody. Only certain people should have to use cannabis. Like maybe people that are repeatedly doing violence, they should maybe have to use some cannabis decreed by the courts. And I think that any time that our leaders are talking about anything to do with like aggression against somebody, they should have to smoke a peace pipe. But other than that, you should do what you want, man.
agreed,
Freedom.
Neil. Thanks
Thanks
Neil
for having me,
Magnuson.
and come on down and let's have a great next week of activism. Calling all activists in Vancouver and the greater Vancouver area. Come on down, help us out. Look, we're having fun out there. I mean, somebody came down. It was actually Brian Taylor, ex-mayor of Grand Forks. He gave us a couple boxes of grinders. We gave out free grinders to people that came down.
I'm doing this
There was
one-handed.
3 big trays of Subway sandwiches that somebody, I think Jen from the coalition, brought down for people.
Very
And
nice.
lots of weed being smoked out front there. We're trying to be respectful about that, but if you need a puff, come on down and get that too. So let's build this. We're not going to get a decision after 3 weeks. It's not going to be over.
We ain't
But
gonna hear a
this is
decision
2
till
more
June.
weeks of opportunity to get together, to unite as a group of activists, and to make a statement and educate the public, and maybe influence the policymakers. That's what I know.
Okay, bong rip.
Right.
Here you go.
Good call. And Neil, somebody just asked, is the courtroom nearly full? And the answer is no. There's really not.
It's a big courtroom.
It's a big courtroom.
It's a big court. There was 40
yeah, you want
people
me to-
in there at
No.
noon
It's
or
been up
before
and down in there.
before
There's
noon.
never been 40 people in that
And there's
courtroom.
probably room for
No.
120.
There's
There's
probably
never
about
been
40
40
is
people.
max.
No,
Maybe
man, there was
20
40 in there at noon yesterday when I went in.
Yeah,
40
that's
people, I
what I
counted
mean.
them.
Yeah.
And you could have
And
put
that was the
another
most there's
80
been.
people in there. Yeah, that's the most there's
That's the
been.
most there's been, yeah.
But you could put another 80 people in there.
Yeah.
It's a big courtroom.
Yes. So yeah, unfortunately, we could pack the thing. We
And
really
you can
should
hear
pack it.
everything too.
I'll hit
The
that
acoustics are really good.
Okay,
The
let
sound
me hit
system
this.
is good. You can hear all the questions and everything really well. It's well worth coming down and watching, and it's really important to, you know, if you want to take part in something that's very historic, as Jeremiah said to open the show, this is history being made eventually through this case and the cases that are pending as a result of it. So,
what happened? Oh, you missed the bowl.
What's going on? Well,
yeah,
it's
that's
4:20
okay.
somewhere.
That's really tasty.
It's always
It's
4:20.
well, it's
somewhere.
5:08 on this clock. So if it's 4:20 somewhere, somebody's got their clock set wrong.
I think it's always 4:20 somewhere in quantum universes. You know?
I understand.
Yeah.
There's also the suppression of scientific research. So during that, when they questioned that gentleman from the UBC, the psychologist, about the study that he did,
Yes.
that's suppressing scientific research on cannabis. So the Crown is really pushing their agenda and
Yeah.
really trying to prohibit, you know,
We're gonna get into. That was Dr. Pate. Yeah. So
And that's the thing, is the Crown has an agenda. And the agenda is to stop Canadians
it
from
wasn't
being
Dr.
able
Pate.
to be amateur horticulturalists. They can't be handled with growing a few plants. Give me a break. The government can't be handled with dealing with these type of moral and personal issues.
They haven't
That's
really
what-
brought up the
what,
growing
uh,
of the plant.
is the
Most
truth.
of the stuff this case has been about right now, what we're seeing, is about dosaging, diversifying of money, and that's what they're really looking at. They're trying to determine dose, and they're really trying to rip apart that, and I see that over
Well,
and
same.
over.
Okay, John, I appreciate that. And on the question of dose, where is there any exploration of what happens when a person is taking more than what the Crown thinks you should take? What happens to these people that are doing 10, 20 grams a day? Is there health issues for these people? Are they compromising their immune systems? Are they getting lung cancer?
But it has nothing to do with what that. It's all about science, and that's what they're
It should
using.
be about our people being harmed.
I know that, but that's what the problem is, and that's what we
It's
have.
just
We
a
have
kangaroo court.
specialists coming in from Israel, from the United States, on the defendants' end, because I'm going to call them their defendants, because we're the ones that have them in court, and that's what they keep saying. And we got to take a better look. So we have experts right now that are testifying on what is dosing, and that would be Dr. David Pate. And we're going to have some specialists come back next week, which will be great listening to, and it'll be interesting to how they perceive, because they're not going to be able to talk about extractions, and it'll be interesting is how Dr. David Pate did touch bases really a lot on hash, on dry sift, on using olive oils and stuff like that. So, I mean, their main focus that I see is just being about dried flower, and we're really pushing. It's not about dried flower.
Yeah.
And that's what this next is leading up to. So I think that's what I'm seeing right now.
Neil, I appreciate your passion about the subject, and I appreciate the direction that you come at it from, and I think we need people like you coming at it from that direction. But there's something to be said, because really, when you think about this neo-fascist society that we live in right now, in order to actually make any real change and real difference, in some ways, unfortunately, we have to go through their system of the courts.
And I did hear, and I
it's not-
appreciate that
And
they
it's
were-
not about the principles when it goes through the system of the courts at all. It's
Well,
not
this
about
is
the
a
principles.
constitutional challenge, so
Well,
it should be more about principles.
well,
And I did hear them
right.
question the doctor about the
should be,
potentials and the dangers about extracts and making extracts with hydrocarbon solvents and those types of things.
Yeah.
And that's all great, and those types of things should result in some regulations and a lot of understanding and education about those things.
Right.
But, you know,
But we
with
can actually
respect to
make-
dosage, really, there's no harm if you're using 20 grams of cannabis a day. There really is no issue with society. And I got a lot of friends. All they can do is they can afford some dirt and some seeds, and they got the time and ability to water some plants. And that's it. And those are the people that need to be represented in this courtroom, not the people who can afford $60,000 to build a room out back, and how much would that offset the cost of meds through the LP. This is about poor people who don't have much, and what we do have is God's sunshine out there, and this plant that is out there that helps people, and they don't have to use pharmaceuticals, or they don't have to live in pain if they just grow this plant. So those are the ones that need to be protected by our courts,
But it's
and
not
that
really-
should be the agenda of our
But it's not really
the federal
about. It's
government.
not really about poor people. Though.
I think
It should be about poor people.
It's
It's not- no, it
about
shouldn't,
our
though.
right to
It shouldn't be
grow.
about poor people.
Everybody.
Yeah, it's about
and let's
everybody.
really rephrase that.
It's not
It's
about
not just
poor
about
people.
poor people. It's about the right of everybody to be able to
Right.
grow their medicine, no matter
Right.
who they are, no matter if
Sure,
they're
of
low
course.
power or anything.
All
So you
people have
can't
a right.
make
I
it.
wouldn't say
all
restrict-
people have a right.
yeah, of
Rich
course.
people have an equal right to grow it too.
Oh, yeah, yeah. No, I'm not
Anybody
saying they
does.
shouldn't. I'm saying the ones that are the least able to should be the ones that should be being protected. And they're the ones
they
that should be
should be.
being protected by the federal government and those prosecutors on our behalf, not the agenda that seems to be going forward, as Karen was saying, that by these prosecutors, which is we're going to protect the LPs. We're going to still make it criminal for people to grow their own plants and use anything other than that which we provide for them with tax dollars. So this is a travesty of justice, in my opinion, all the way around. This is a joke. I know it's part of the transition that we're going through to having a world with legal marijuana, and we've got to go through this. But really, this is just going to be looked back at by the historians as what a joke that the people had to fight against their own government for the right to grow a plant that does nobody any harm and helps a lot of people.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
Yeah,
well,
we all agree with that.
That's
100%.
true. Thanks, Neil.
That's why I'm there every day anyway.
That's true.
If you feel the same, come and join me.
That's right. And I got a picture of you up on the screen right now, Neil, with your sign there.
Let our people grow. You know, that's symbolic for me from when it was Moses demanding that the Israelites be released by the Egyptians. And there's that classic vision of him. They epitomized it in the movie with Charlton Heston standing on the big rock with his staff saying, "Let our people go, damn it." You know, and that's what I feel, is let our people go. Enough of this bullshit. They shouldn't be able to get away with now smoothing things over like it wasn't wrong to prohibit marijuana, and now it's going to be okay for people to buy it from their producers, and they're all good and everything. Fuck that. They're criminals. They need to be brought to task for this. They need to turn this thing right back around the other way from where it's been. No more demonization of cannabis. It doesn't hurt the developing brain. This is a wonderful plant that they've lied about to protect corporate interests, and they need to be shown as such and not get away with just smoothing this into some, now they're the sellers of it to us. Fuck that.
It's very true.
Thanks for letting me say so. I got to go and
Thanks,
appreciate
Neil.
it. Who's next?
Always good
Awesome,
to have you
Neil.
on. You're a passionate guy.
Very passionate.
Very
guy.
passionate. He's on fire today. Neil's
I,
roaring.
I do know you'll never leave that sign.
That's right.
We'll see that sign.
Give
with
that
you
guy a
everywhere.
bong rip before he goes, though.
Would you like a bong rip? Come on over here.
I got another picture here. Let's see. We'll throw this one up. There's Mark.
So you know
Emery
what?
down
That's
there.
the reason why we fight. And that's the reason why we're in court, and it's because of people like Neil. He has
Yeah.
passion, and that's what we're all about.
Ultimately, it is about a principle at the heart of all of it. And unfortunately, we have to
100%.
fight through their shitty systems and to try and actually get any grasp of justice, a little teeny tiny piece of it. But really, it is about a principle.
Right and wrong.
Yeah. And I think that that's where activism comes in. You have to do both at the same time. That's what civil disobedience is. That's where we disrupt things. That's where we actually do those other things. In this particular case, like I said, we don't disrupt ourselves, but I truly believe that when their systems don't work at all, like the courts usually aren't working, then we have to take other means, like Mark Emery, who's on the screen right now holding the sign. There's been a good crew. This fellow here, now I can't remember what his name is, but he came all the way from Alberta, I believe.
We had people from Ontario. Yeah, we had a great group of people that came in.
It was, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely a fantastic group that showed up in support, and definitely going to see
there's
more.
somebody.
We
Look
even
at
got
this.
me holding my.
Look at this fantastic fellow there.
Every Dutch
You look
adult is allowed
funny
to
with
grow
your boot
5
and
plants.
thumb up.
Hey, you
Kinda
know
look
what?
Like
Last day,
Beetle
I'm gonna have
Bailey
that
or
sign. I
something.
want that sign. I told Mark I want that sign. That's my sign.
That's a good one.
It was
Yeah.
a lot of fun. It's been really good there, showing up, and it's more to come. You know
Yeah.
what? I mean, hey,
Well,
Allard when he testified, boy, I mean he.
Let's quickly-
That was a great day.
Allard was amazing.
That was a Wednesday.
I wanted
Everybody
to
was
talk
in there.
about-
We're shaking their head. Wednesday with Allard on stand. He stood it down.
Neil Allard, who's a 60-year-old medical marijuana patient who's been using for a long time. He's got chronic fatigue syndrome, a bunch of pain, suffers from depression and stuff.
He uses weed.
And this is something that's helped him for a long, long time. Nothing else has helped him. And he did just an absolutely great measured job of explaining. When they were trying to
Everything.
cut him down, he didn't fall for any of the bait. He just was very poised and very calm and composed. And when they were being illogical, he didn't,
He had
lose
that
his
fire.
cool.
He had the electrical inspections. and
Electrical
They
inspections.
asked him, he goes, "Well, do you have a fire inspection?" He goes, "Well, why? I didn't really need to."
Right. Well, and the one thing that I thought that stood out above all else was when they asked him about testing, THC testing, and testing of the product for mold and these things. And they were saying, well, you don't test all your marijuana for mold? And he said, well, back to the Crown Counselor, he said, well, are you trying to tell me that if I grow an apple on a tree in my yard, that it's dangerous if I don't have a Health Canada person come up and test it and test that apple before I eat it? And the Crown Counselor came back and said, well, if it had mold on it, it could be dangerous.
And then they even, I think the mention got into when you go to Safeway, you get mold from your produce too.
Yeah, and he actually, I think the Crown Counselor there just showed how stupid his own argument is. If an apple has mold on it, and it could be dangerous, of course, but human beings are smart enough to realize that you don't do something that's dangerous right in front of your face. Mold on an apple, you can see that. Don't eat it. And I mean, even the danger that comes from it is probably not huge, but yeah. You know, you can make certain decisions for yourself. If we can't, then we have to have like a government employee in our homes at all times, looking after everything we do, wiping our asses for us.
When they were asking Dr. David Pate if he could tell how much THC was in a cookie by looking at it.
Yeah.
And then John was asking about it later, and he was saying, "Well, I can't tell him how much acetaminophen is in a tablet of aspirin."
By looking at it.
Yeah.
I like it when Kurt actually, when he goes, if you look at a marijuana bud, by looking at it, can you tell how much THC is in it?
Yeah, I know, exactly.
Because they were talking about the cookie, you're not going to be able to tell, right?
Right, that was funny.
It was. That made me laugh out loud.
But it's obviously ridiculous because, as somebody pointed out, sorry, what the hell were we just talking about? I just lost.
We were just talking about in the beginning.
It was about looking at the brownie and knowing if it had THC in it. Yeah, and the whole silly thing about that is, if you made the brownie yourself, then you know how much fucking THC is in it.
Yeah, I think
and
they touch
if you
more
get it
bases
from an
on
LP
if
or
a
some other
kid got
place,
into
you
it.
can't know.
That was their big point. Well, if children, they were really pushing on children at that point and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that was their big.
Oh, and that's what they're trying to show.
Little stupid
and
things.
by bringing up the whole thing, by looking at the brownie, you can't tell how much pot is in it. Yeah, it's this whole, they keep trying to say that we can't take care of ourselves, we can't figure things out for ourselves, but really the answer is letting us do it for ourselves. Then we will know how much is in that brownie. Then we know to keep it away from our kids.
There you go.
Yeah.
I wanted to go back to when the judge had talked about saying this isn't a comedy show. What brought that about in Remo's testimony is the Crown brought up the original calculations of Health Canada, and the original calculations were 30 grams per plant. And so Remo kind of went into at length about the problems with Health Canada's calculations. And we're saying if it takes someone 3 months to grow 30 grams of plant, they should get out of growing and just buy their cannabis.
Yeah. That was funny. Because Remo thinks that that's ridiculous. You know, and obviously growing, if you can only grow that much, then I think Remo's right. Yeah, it's a fair statement. But the judge didn't like that for whatever reason. It's really because the crowd laughed so much, I think, as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
There was, I think, 3 laugh out louds in the courtroom so far. And the judge, actually, he caused 1.
The judge caused 2, actually.
That's 2.
Yeah, because the judge, one of them was that the Crown counselors were reading from articles, a whole bunch of different articles. And the judge is like, they came back after the break and they wanted to read from more of these articles for statistical stuff. They were looking for whether pot brownies would be dangerous to kids if you left them laying around. And there was some article in some newspaper or magazine about how they were. And the judge said, I don't think it's relevant. He's like, you might as well read out of the phone book. So that got a laugh. And then also when Kirk went up, and Kirk was leading the witness a little bit.
There was actually there's a bit more to that, because what the judge was saying is that what I don't want later on is that eventually this is going to go to the Supreme Court. And what I don't want is you taking some random bit of information that was brought up for this point and using it against some other point that is not relevant.
Yeah, they're trying to put a lot of stuff. They're trying to put a lot of stuff. They want to make it as evidence, and the judge of the state goes, it's
he's calling it out.
He's calling it out. You don't need to put this in there.
He knows that they're doing that, and he's trying to alleviate. No, and what he said to one of them was that if you keep doing this, I'm just going to only allow what you say in the testimony to be the stuff that's in the record, and he's going to throw out all the articles themselves and all the things that are in the books. Yeah, and so they immediately shut up after that, pretty much. But the other thing he said, pardon me, when Kirk was up there, and he was leading the witness a little bit, and the judge kind of called him out, or the Crown counselor objected to it and said, he's leading the witness, and the judge was like, leading? He's like, I've seen this stuff on the dance floor. And then he said, yeah, I was waiting for somebody to say something about how much you're leading the witness, and so Kirk was kind of embarrassed, I think, by that, because he kind of laughed and chuckled, but... He's like, because Kirk was sort of answering for him instead of just asking a question.
So this is right?
Yeah.
Oh, so right?
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, you just
you got to let the
and he said
you got to let the
witnesses
plaintiff
didn't have to answer, even though we already just got the answer.
Yeah, that was the other part. There he goes. Now the witness can. Yeah.
Oh yeah, right. I can't remember what was the answer.
That was Remo again. So.
Yeah.
Even though you just gave him the answer.
Oh, the video. Yeah, we should play a video. We could play the video that Remo played in the courtroom. So we haven't even talked about this movie viewing in the courtroom that happened. And, this was really funny. The movie viewing, man, so we had to sit on the other side of the courtroom to see one of the movie screens, and the Crown counselors wanted to put into evidence 4 videos, and the judge at first was hesitant to allow the videos to be played at all. He's like, I don't see how this is relevant.
No, John goes, we don't need to play the videos. This is personal. He goes, we want to show you how his passion is around marijuana and what he's doing and how he's involved in the industry. And finally, the judge said, well,
they convinced the judge to let it go, and against everybody's best wishes. But then the video that they play is Remo's video called "The World's Biggest Joint," and what it shows
you gotta play it.
Yeah, but we should just play the video.
I'm
gonna get it. Yeah.
Okay, so this is what happened. The judge allowed the video. Crown's so happy. We're all moved to the other side of the courtroom.
Yeah.
We all got smiles on our faces. We're like, okay, here we go. We're gonna watch this crazy video, right, about Remo smoking the world's biggest joint.
Yeah.
And, of course, Crown, they're all geared up. They're smiling. You can see how she's smiling. Now she's looking at the judge going, check this out.
Yeah, they were really happy about that.
Yeah, they were really happy. You know what? You could tell that they were like, okay, now we're going to just show and discredit how these guys are and stuff
hold on a sec. I had it before. I tweeted it earlier.
So,
hold on a sec.
Did you get it?
No, I'm getting it. Remo. It's Urban Remo.
Urban Remo.
YouTube.
So anyway, as everybody's getting ready, we're scuttling across the other side of the courtroom. Of course, I'm tweeting away. We're getting ready to watch this. Remo's got the biggest smile on his face because, well, you're going to see why he's got the biggest smile on his face. It's really hilarious. You playing it now, dude?
Yeah, here's the video.
Here we go, guys.
Now, are we going to watch the whole thing? Or should we
watch?
watch...
Whole thing.
Okay,
whole
let's
thing.
watch the whole
You're
video.
watching the whole thing. You have to.
In court, we pretty much watch the whole thing.
Yeah, we got to watch the whole thing. So you know what? Light up, roll the big fat one because you're going to watch this, the world's biggest joint, and we're going to get back to you.
And man, what a joint this one is. Oh, here he goes. Woo woo.
Hey folks, it's Urban Remo with Chives. Hey everybody. And it is time now to roll the world's biggest joint. And for that, we have this world's biggest bud. This is something somebody gave me. It's called Last Year's Forgotten Outdoor, and I couldn't think of anything better to do with except this. So there it is. That's our product. And we got these special rolling papers called the Vancouver Sun. Only available in Vancouver. Check it out. They're double wide. And we have this special adhesive right here called utility masking tape. And we put all 3 of these things together, and we're going to have the world's biggest joint. You ready, Chives? Ready. Okay, let's rock it. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of breaking up required. No puppy, no kill. We're going to have to hold Cujo back. I think so. I'll just put this down. I'll grab one of the rolling papers and our giant bud. And we'll just go around. No, we're going to have to glue 2 of these together.
I think we're going to have to laminate the papers together.
Okay. I have never done this before. This is our first attempt, probably our only attempt at ever doing something like this. It's a good thing it came by. It's difficult to hold this.
Okay, so
don't have too many extra hands.
I think we should probably do one on each side to make sure it doesn't come off, kind of like you do when you're doing a large joint.
That's a good plan. Yeah, I like it when a plan comes together. It's like the 18.
Whoa. Except for I think we're having much more fun than they ever had.
We're definitely a lot higher than those guys that ever were.
They seemed way too aggressive to be having fun.
Except for Mr. T.
Yeah,
I think that guy's a stoner for sure.
Yeah, I think he was having fun.
You just got to hang out with the white people, the crackers. Those guys definitely didn't smoke weed, but I think Mr. T did.
I think he might have.
He's the only stoner. It's the only way you could put up with those guys. Should we make 2 of these?
I think we should.
Or should we just wrap this around first to see where we're at?
Well, you can see what we're working with here, but I think we're going to have to...
Okay.
So that will work, but we're going to have to go 1...
Okay, no problem. Let's get this one done first.
Okay.
Let's just crunch it down. Compression is important. Oh, look, we ripped the paper.
A little bit of ripping on that.
That's okay.
Make sure it's still got seal on the rip. There we go. Okay.
Now we'll get our sealant.
This is emergency resin.
You know what? We should. This is in retrospect. We should have got some of that black oil and used that to, hold the rolling paper together. What do you think, people? Would that be a good idea? It'd probably be really nasty to smoke.
It would be terrible tasting, but it might be effective.
Now we need more rolling papers. Oh, this is just a single.
It's okay. We got lots of.
That's a dud. Another rolling paper, please. Yeah, this is what we do in our spare time. Just so you know, we come up with shit like this to do. It's very entertaining for me. Uh-oh, here comes the dogs.
She wants to be part of the action.
She is part of the action. No doobie for you.
No.
Flip that over.
I don't remember the other doctor's name in the video that they did for the power of raw cannabis. But they say in there that humans are the only species to experience the euphoric aspects of it. So
Oh boy.
you're wasting your time.
Well, I don't know. I seen my dog eat some brownies, and
That's because they.
he wasn't grooving. He was puking in the driveway. He was not having a good time. I think he overdosed.
Yes, cooked green is always bad for dogs.
This thing's gonna look like the bomb, folks. Like literally like a bomb.
Like a bomb. They have government agencies coming after us and harassing us.
No, I think that happens anyway.
I think it does.
You know what? Maybe
Twist the top? Yeah.
Put some around there just to hold that in place.
You got it. I think we have the same idea there. That's good. Twist it around.
Another dog's going crazy. Now we're gonna need one around there, I think.
Yeah, I think we need one more.
Or one. Let's put one tape. Let's get the seam taped up here. I'll spin the joint. while you
Perfect.
tape.
Awesome.
There we go. It's team effort.
Well, when it's this big, it has to be a team effort.
Team Kush.
Great. Beautiful. That was perfect. There we
It's
go.
like we did that before.
And we haven't, so
We haven't.
That's pretty good.
We're coming up with the method right here, right now, folks.
You're seeing it live. They always say that that marijuana is one of the root of inventions.
Oh yeah. You know what? You give a stoner a job like, hey man, you got all this stuff in the kitchen, make a bong, and they can make a bong out of anything. They're the most creative folks on the face of the planet.
I think you were right. It might have something to do with the opening of all those connectors that the THC seems to have. Improves the synapse firing in the brain and the receiving of the information.
Absolutely. Okay.
Okay, so we got another one?
Yeah, that's the rolling paper over here, and this is going to be the world's largest joint, Mike. Oh my God, it broke a chunk of it.
That's okay. I think it'll handle it. That was the version of trimming for or chocolate for large one.
I need to move this down.
Yeah, there's a bit. There we go. Okay.
I gotta roll it.
Yeah.
Carefully.
No rips on that one. Excellent.
You know what? This isn't the most symmetrical joint I've ever rolled in my life. Probably resembles the first joint I ever rolled when I was a youngster. Probably looked like this, but on a smaller scale.
Slightly smaller. Knowing you, probably not a lot smaller.
Okay, I'll just roll that around. And we'll get that seam. Oh, I think the dog wants a soak.
I think she does. All right. We almost need like a cardboard tube for a large filter to stick over the end.
That's a good idea. I'll be right back with a cardboard tube.
All right.
You ready, Swan? I have returned with our cardboard tube, which is currently a Domino's pizza box, but we're going to turn it to a cardboard tube.
From munchy carrier to doobie smoke. The circle of life. Awesome. All right.
Look at that filter.
I think that's going to work.
Filter.
Perfect.
That's it.
I think that's it. So let's
That is
do a
it.
wrap.
Got lots of tape. Give her, man. I feel like I'm making a mummy. We should call this thing the Egyptian doobie.
Egyptian doobie.
Okay, I think it's fine.
I think it's right.
Oh, yeah, it's sealed.
There you go.
We'll just put a little bit around the end here. Sounds like the dogs are having a good time.
Joint.
They're playing.
If it's an Egyptian joint, wouldn't that be like joint puff in common?
Yeah, it would be. Okay, I think we're finished. Holy shit. Oh my God. This is the first joint I've ever rolled that's just as tall as me.
I'm impressed.
Look at that. It's just as tall as me. That is a big motherfucking joint. What do you think?
I think that's definitely ready.
See, that's what we need to bring to the protest is one of these.
One of these, yeah.
You know, they throw those little joints out in the crowd. Just
Here,
roll one of
couple
these and pass it around. Here, do a toke. It's your turn to toke. Well, you know what we got to do now? We got to light it up. Maybe we should go to the fire pit for that.
I think we should.
We're going to go to the fire pit just for safety and get a hose and shit. You never know. Okay, you got a lighter, right? Okay, there we go. We're at the fire pit, and we have the world's biggest lighter right here. Check this thing out. Chives, light it up. And then we'll spark up the world's biggest joint.
I'm not thinking a normal lighter would cut this one. So.
No.
There we go.
Big joint, big lighter, right?
Big joint, big lighter. You know, go big or go home. There it goes. All right. Ready? I think that worked quite well.
You want a puff?
Oh, I do. I do.
Here, man.
It's going to be heavy. Hold on. See if I can get that.
I'm gonna hold it for you.
Thanks, buddy. Okay.
This thing's fucking insane. This is the biggest joint I've ever smoked. Ever.
Oh
What do you think, Chives?
I think it tastes like what it is, but it's fucking fun to smoke.
It's fucking insane, man. Insane. I think we're setting a Guinness Book World Record right here, right now. This is it. And look at the smoke coming off the end of that. That is just fucking thick, dense shit. Oh, yeah. Try this at home, people. The world's biggest joint. Here, I think it's my turn.
I think it's your turn, too.
Here, you might want to grab it then.
I will. Let me hold that for you.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, I got it. Look at the cherry on that thing. That's awesome.
So smooth.
I think even the neighbors are getting high on this one. You know, they always say
Birds, the squirrels, everybody.
you got to share. It's all about the love.
Everybody's getting some.
That's right.
Well, that was awesome shit. What do you think, Chives?
I think that was definitely worth the effort.
Definitely. We're going to finish smoking this joint. In the meantime, keep watching Urban Rainbow for more weed videos.
All right. All right, that was the Urban Grower, Remo.
That was
Hilarious.
hilarious.
Very funny. Where's my glasses? Oh, man. I need a joint. Neil, pass me this joint.
Hey, can I get a puff of that one too? Oh yeah. So we got the world's biggest joint right here. Let me tell you. So actually, the world's biggest joint happens to be Cannabis Culture.
Ours is bigger.
But the best part about this is when Crown, how can they not realize that it was a hoax?
I know. It's so ridiculous.
And the look on their faces because they didn't even really watch the video. There's no way they even watched it because after this happened, the judge was like, Remo's laughing. But that's when we laughed out loud in the courtroom. That's what we talked about.
Yeah.
One thing's
No, it's really funny.
One thing's for sure. The judge wasn't watching it. He watched it for.
He already knew. He already knew. That's why he allowed it. I think he's already seen it, and he allowed it just to let the defendants sink themselves.
Oh, coffee.
He
yeah.
definitely didn't look happy though.
If you get me a black one, I would be so happy. We have some
Jeremiah's
upstairs
ordering
too.
coffees right now.
Getting coffee. I want a coffee.
But at that point, there was no more urban Remo videos played. That's for sure.
So after that, that shut it all down.
Yeah,
the judge was not pleased. He didn't think it was funny, and that was the end of that whole thing. But I'm starting to wonder whether or not the Crown really knew or not it was a joke, or maybe just didn't care and they just wanted to do it anyways. But it seems like ridiculous. Maybe they really, because at the end, in the line of questioning, the funny part was that when Remo first came on afterwards, he said, it's a total fake. I didn't smoke any of it. There was something behind it that we were smoking, blowing it out. And it was a male plant. We rolled it up in newspaper, and I don't advise that anybody smoke a male plant, and I don't advise that anybody smoke out a newspaper or tape. And she's like, so you weren't smoking it?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like they actually did not watch the video. They were clueless to marijuana. They didn't even educate themselves. It just shows how absurd this court case is. It's like you got people who have no idea on how cannabis or medical marijuana, whatever you guys want to call it, is going to help you in the way. They had no idea what it even meant. Like they didn't even know how. It was just hilarious. So the look on their face was awesome.
No, that Remo was hilarious, man. The testimony was awesome. All right, so we kind of went over. We didn't go over all of the witnesses.
Allard was very well.
Allard was great. We did talk about Allard a bit. I thought he was one of the best, just because he was so descriptive about the way they questioned him. They were trying to get him, and he just didn't fall for it. And he didn't get upset, and so that kind of made him stand. He was standing strong against it.
I think the best part about that is the guy grows his own. He had his different strains. He knew everything that he has done because he was the grower. And he built his own stuff. He had money, so he actually had contractors come in and build this thing properly for him with electrical inspection. So he had everything that they needed. He had.
And that was a big part of it.
And that was the biggest part. He had everything that he had it. Here you go. Whatever you needed, he had. Oh, I use different strains, of course.
Yeah.
I have stuff in flour and veg, and sometimes I juice, sometimes I do. Like, he just nailed it.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about the whole
apple
apple thing and the apple tree. But, I thought he did a really effective job. There was one thing that I actually wrote down, and I'm missing my notes here. I wanted to point out.
Are you missing? Maybe it's the one with the bud on it.
Oh, there's bud. Yeah, there's bud all over all my notes. There's buds all over everything. Oh, the grow boxes I have under that note. That's funny. The grow boxes kept getting brought up over and over and over again.
And then it ended up in the courtroom.
Yeah, Remo actually brought a big grow box into the courtroom.
I know. I actually took a picture of it rolling out of the courtroom.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Allard was great. I think at pointing out a lot of times that, he was capable of doing this stuff himself. And he also said, which I thought was great, he pointed out the fact that you don't need to have a Health Canada inspector come in necessarily. You can have a private contractor come in and do electrical, things like this, and you pay them.
Need anybody to
You don't need a government worker necessarily. You can have a private contractor come in and do that stuff, which I think would, they're complaining, we don't have all the money to send out all these inspectors and all this stuff. Well, if you set up a system instead of the LPs where you send out private contractors, or they have to do it, and they send the contract or the forms to Health Canada and say, hey, it's inspected, it looks good, bingo, you pay for it yourself. Health Canada doesn't have to pay for it. Or even if they did, whatever. Maybe you could write it off. There's 1,000,001 ways to do this without involving a bunch of a lot of government dollars having to be spent on it. I don't know. Because that's one of the...
This is a great joint.
What's that?
This is a great joint.
That joint is great. One of the things that Health Canada really, or that the government is going after, that is a really great joint. What is that? Taste. That's the lamb's bread?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a Jamaican
lamb's bread. Yeah, Health Canada sucks. Anyways.
Two more points that I wanted to bring up before I get off about Remo's testimony. One was about grow rips, and he had talked about in the last year he hadn't heard of any grow rips going on, and I thought it was strange the Crown hadn't challenged that he did. what expertise does he have in this field? They didn't do any of that. So I don't think there is much going on.
Right. That's very
if
true.
it
They
is,
didn't
it's-
challenge his expertise.
People aren't reporting it to the police. It's bad.
Right. And I think that's a great point, actually, that Remo said that over the, because the price of pot for growers is going down so much, the value is decreasing.
And because everybody's legal, everybody's got security. You can call the police if someone's breaking in.
That's
things
right.
have changed. Where before, and they stated on that, well, now with the legal system, nobody's growing illegally, so people aren't ripping people off because you can call the cops.
I think the line was illegal growers don't call the police.
Yeah.
Illegal growers don't call the police. So if they're medical marijuana growers, they can call the police.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and they do usually.
Yeah. And so
Remo went through why it's not that great of a crime, and you have to hit it at the right time. You have to process the crop. You have to find a market for it. You're not getting that good price. It's just so much easier just to be able to go out and steal a TV.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. These are all points I think that Conroy has to pay attention to.
So crime was one of the issues, and there doesn't seem to be anything there from that point of view.
Yeah, crime, and I wonder if we'll have somebody in to talk about that, or who, what. Well, actually, let's see. Look at our list here of experts.
And also, when it comes to mold, Remo was talking about
RCMP corporal
outside is high, like in the 70%, say. Inside his house, relative humidity is 50 or 60%, where inside his grow room it's down to 40%. And that's something that the judge definitely took note of. And I see also the judge taking note of anything that is relating to the comparison to foodstuffs or gardening, regular gardening practices, I guess, in relation to food.
Yeah. Yeah, the food. Now, there was that Hebert who said he also grew his own food at home.
Yeah.
And,
yes, totally.
And that he referenced about the mold. They asked him whether or not any of his plants had mold on them that he grew, and he said his marijuana plants, and he said no, he's never had problems with that. But he noted that some of his tomato plants occasionally have mold.
He noted that he had mold in his
and
other diseases in his outdoor crops that he still consumed.
Yeah, in all our vegetable gardens outside, there's mold. It's our climate. And our gardens inside are strictly climate controlled.
Well, a lot of them aren't.
Medicine.
You know what? Some people aren't. A lot of people grow in different ways, so you can't say that. You can't say a lot of them are climate controlled, and that's
right. But a responsible person would be, and there's ways to do it quite responsibly.
You got a grow tent. You don't have to have a climate
the more
control.
you
Well, and that's what
The
the grow box I think
practice.
points out. The grow box points out that you don't need to have some crazy expertise and build a whole setup and all this stuff. You can roll one of those boxes in there, follow the instructions, and you can pretty much become a grower.
And Remo figured he'd need at least minimum of 10.
Yeah.
He says he might be able to get away with. Because
Yeah,
they asked
10
him to
in a
go in a
row.
grow box. He goes, well, if had at least 10, maybe.
Well, but he said if you had a whole bunch of grow boxes, it'd probably be cheaper to just build a facility.
I know that.
Yeah.
That's because they wanted why if he didn't have his facility, would he grow in a grow box? He goes, well
He'd need a bunch of them.
you need a bunch of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Grow
Yeah.
boxes are expensive, though.
But we
compared
do have
to
a- what's that?
building- I think grow boxes are kind of expensive compared to building your own room. And if you
Good
have
grab.
a large prescription, it's not practical to buy 10 of these units and be
Right.
growing small plants.
No, it really isn't.
It's a lot of work. It's a large expense. It just doesn't make sense. And this is something the Crown is trying to push us into if they lose the case, that this isn't like a straight win or lose. It's how it will be regulated in the end. And they want it regulated to small amounts per person, like one grow box kind of per person. They really want to limit how much patients can use, how much they can produce. But I think
But that's what we're hearing. We're seeing they're really pushing grow boxes. They're trying to push these smaller grows. They're raising issues around certain things around growing indoors, around the difficulties of growing from even to intense with this on the second day we were talking. We're seeing a lot, and then with Remo when he was testifying as being an expert grower, and he gave all the different variables of growing, which was excellent. So he talked about room sizes, he talked about strains and how things were taking longer and stuff like that, or he had failed crops. So it showed the judge there were so many different variables of growing that you could not just contain yourself to one small confined area. So I think that was very well spec. I think Jeremiah will also agree with that. That's what we more or less heard from Remo, is it wasn't about the confined one small space area. That might be something to learn. But with that such, you would run into problems because they always were trying to push. Have you had plants that have died? How many plants have you killed in your crops? I mean, they brought that up quite a bit.
Right.
So they're really trying to find out that. So I mean, those are the questions that we're hearing. Right? I mean, that's basically what the defendant. Like I said, I call them the defendants, and that's basically what I'm seeing is they're trying to grab at straws. I say grabbing at cannabis stalks.
Right.
I mean, that's what they're doing. They're just grabbing at these little things of trying to, but their main focus, what I'm going to see is going to be when the fire chiefs come in. It's going to be the cops. It's going to be the professors and stuff. They're going to be looking at diversity, the diversities, not so much of the grow ops. I think they're pushing more on that. That was their number one thing when they said is they had 9 reasons why they wanted to take away our licenses. Did you write? I
oh yeah, that's the straight off the bat.
Straight off the bat, right? The first one was diversing.
I wrote them down here.
It was it was their biggest thing, and then number 4 was extractions, doing with butane extractions and alcohol solvents.
Right.
And then they dealt with fire and mold issues. That came into like number 6. So they had now changed things on how they classified how things were. They made it a danger to more of to people around, to small communities due to home invasions and stuff. They try to push in the crime end of it, but you know that's what they're pushing. That's what they're not trying to push so much on the mold or the fire anymore.
No, they haven't been at all.
They've really pushed away from that.
We haven't seen those witnesses yet.
Yeah, we haven't. It'll be really, really interesting to see.
And actually, they have been pushing on it from our witnesses a lot. Actually,
yeah, they're trying to pull things out of that. So when the witnesses come in, they're going to have all of this.
But nobody has had a fire. So the mold, they're pushing a lot, but the fire speaks for itself. If you have a fire, you have a fucking fire. But if you don't have one, you don't have one. There's no, nobody has had
It was
fires.
interesting in how they only talked about extractions when the defendants were talking about extractions. All they talked about were solvent extractions. They never brought up hash or making cookies or edibles with oil extractions or using cannabis, cocoa shea butters and stuff.
Now, some of that was brought up.
So
the different methods of extraction were brought up today during Dr. Pate's.
That's where he came into. And
now I want to play quickly. There's a 3-minute video here. This is an interview outside of the trial. Now, Jason Wilcox, of course, from Cannabis in Canada. Jason on the coalition has been doing a lot of work for a long time. He had a chance to talk to Kirk very quickly, just for like 3 minutes. I told him I'd play these videos, so I want to throw these up and actually show you guys these because I haven't seen these yet. So I wanted to play this one, and I might play another one with Conroy. He actually talks about.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah, that one we should watch.
We'll definitely play them.
So I haven't seen these. We will throw this on right now, and then once we get back, I want to talk a little bit more about what Dr. Pate talked about, and also what Professor Walsh, who was he was up yesterday. Now he's a psychology professor and researcher of demographics, and I believe he's at UBC. UBC. I think it was UBC. I wrote it down somewhere. But he was also very, very decent at getting his point across to the Crown, I thought. But they were really hard on him. They were really hard on Professor Walsh,
on his camp,
who had the camp study. Now this was a study. You guys did the study. I'm going to bring Ann up and to talk about this stuff. But what's that? Is he? Oh yeah. Oh, yes. Well, yeah, this camp study and stuff, we're going to talk about that after on the other side and how Zachary Walsh is his name, how I thought he did. He did a pretty... Yeah, he was pretty awesome, man, but they really were cutting him down, like they really gave him a hard time because... I think they were trying to disprove his study or any of the stuff.
Oh, no, they were totally trying to disprove his study. The way they ripped apart about it, the way they went back and forth. They would take lines from the beginning of the study and then lines from the end. And they say, well, you said this contradictory. And that's where it came down to.
And then she tried to say that she wasn't doing that.
I know. Yeah. And the judge kind of warned him on her, too, and stuff like that. Yeah. Because we were seeing that. And the whole thing is that's where they're trying to, like, with someone like when Sean testified and David... the defendants were able to kind of like rip them apart because they're just normal people, and the way they coerce and try to reword things. And I think the judge is seeing that now, and I feel better in that sense that the judge is seeing how they're trying to reword even these professors. Like really,
Yeah. No, I think the judge. Yeah.
Yeah. Or all,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Bullied. Anybody of any age can be bullied, and medical cannabis users. I can't even speak. Medical cannabis users are being bullied as well. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and play this video, and we will come back and talk about this topic on the other side.
February 23rd, 2015, we're kicking it off for the trial kickoff. Coalition members here from across the country.
This case is important for the patients that need it, but it could also set the template for what legalization will look like for everybody else as well.
This is a coalition in effect, a collective national unity that has raised over $250,000. We're happy to be here today, and onward we grow. Okay, welcome back to another edition of Cannabis Canada. Right out of the courthouse, sitting here with none other than Kirk Tusaw. Kirk, can you give us just an update on how things went today with Ramo himself, and as well as with Mr. Pate this afternoon?
Yeah, well, we began the expert phase of the plaintiff's case in chief today. We had Ramo Colasanti, urban grower, testified this morning. He's an expert in production practices and safe production of medical marijuana in an indoor environment. He testified to essentially how you can use a bloom box, or you can construct a medical cannabis garden in your home or outbuilding or wherever you want to, really, and do it safely, effectively, and efficiently with no discharges into the surrounding environment. I don't think that those conclusions were necessarily challenged significantly on cross-examination. And then Dr. David Pate testified this afternoon. He's a botanist and pharmacologist, chemist, and he testified essentially to extraction processes for cannabinoids, the use of non-dried forms of marijuana such as oils or extracts or concentrates, and how that might be better for some patients in some circumstances.
Excellent. Okay, now just in closing, I know you have to jump for a ferry, so I'm not going to keep you on long here. SEC hearings coming up next month. First medical marijuana case to go to the Supreme Court of Canada. Can you just update us a bit about that? March 20th, we know it's kicking off. What more can you tell us?
Well, our factum our response factum to the Crown's appeal was filed today, as a matter of fact, served on the Crown and by our Ottawa agents. So the case is in front of the Supreme Court of Canada. There's been about 5 interveners that have been granted the right to intervene: BC Civil Liberties Association, Canadian Civil Liberties Association, Sante Cannabis, the Ontario Criminal Defense Lawyers Association, and one other that I'm probably going to not think of standing here right now. But they're all essentially coming in on side of Mr. Smith and on side of finding a charter violation and letting him have standing to challenge. Should be able to post that factum on my website, tusawlaw.ca, coming up in the next day or so, as soon as we have it electronic. And we're looking forward to March 20th when we go and explain to the Supreme Court of Canada why patients in this country shouldn't be criminalized for making marijuana-based edibles or concentrates or other forms of medicine from the compounds in the dried plant.
Fabulous. Well, Kurt, jump on your ferry. I know you got to go. Thanks for coming on the show. Stay tuned for more legal updates. CannabisCanada.ca. Cheers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there we go. That was cool. Oh, what's up, Johnny? Yeah, you guys come in here. Yeah, well, yeah, and Brian, yeah, maybe make some space there, brother. All right. How's it going, ladies? What's going on? Now, you guys have actually, well, here, grab microphones, first of all, and then tell them who you are and tell them why you guys are in the courtroom and why this is important to you. So, Anne, you go first.
Hi, I'm Karen. This trial is so important. We're in the courtroom supporting patients' rights and all people's rights in Canada. Prohibition has gone on long enough in Canada. Even the judge admitted it at one point, like this, these are constant. But our Canadian charter rights are so important. We have a globalist cabal that invests into our country into businesses that actually harm the planet and harm humanity. And cannabis is a medicine, and also hemp, and the use of housing in the future. There's just so much, and these industry have been held back. And it's also for us to be able to have cannabis as a medicine is to keep our rights, is to be able to grow, to be able to use recreationally, for people who have suffered and not to have suffering. People who have, soldiers who have served overseas coming back with trauma and post-traumatic stress disorder need to be treated in a sufficient amount of time. So the research is there worldwide, and as we have legalization unfolding in so many different countries and also in the States, this is happening. So it's a very vital time. And yes, centralized control over our resources. Cannabis, maybe on the equivalent as gold at one point. Like it's such like an important enriching commodity, and it needs to be treated with respect. So there's so many sides of the plant. It's very complex, but it's also very simple. It comes down to integrity, basic values, also virtue within the ethics of how it's going to be standardized. So drug policy reform around the world and in Canada is vital to so many of our lives.
Yeah, well, and it's true. And I think that you made a good point there about about it being a complicated subject. And when I'm there in the courtroom and I'm watching these government counselors and even the judge try and grasp this complicated subject that has so many different elements to it, I see that it's very hard for them to wrap their brains around. And it's interesting because to us, we're kind of old hats at this. We know a lot about cannabis. We come from a place where many of us are using it as a recreational thing, as a medicine. But we know a lot about it and how the culture works and the history of it. These people are noobs. They don't know. And it really is a complicated subject. And that lends itself to them misunderstanding it completely and trying to treat it like other drugs.
Yes.
They try and treat it like alcohol. They try and treat it like Tylenol or whatever else, coffee, whatever. We're always trying to treat it like something else.
And also, too, cannabis as a food and also like extracts. There's also a tie-in. Reading in Mark Emery's earlier writings, when he wrote about the DEA in Canada, there's also the Food and Drug Administration, and then Codex Alimentarius is worldwide. So when you have these policies being set, this is being set on an international premise. But the positive...
They want to get rid of natural medicines. They want to get rid of things that aren't synthetic.
Yes, and also
produced and things like that.
To allocate our resources towards, we do need to fence, but how much do we need? That's another ongoing debate. And then we have a harbor into the weapons industry. So, the military, in a sense, worldwide with leaders, they're suppressing this industry, and this industry is now coming up. And it's been an emerging industry for some time, but it's had no infrastructure. And so corporates, it's like having control over something and abusing something they don't really know a lot about. So they need, in all fairness, to be educated.
Right. Well, that's very true. These
LPs
LPs don't know what they're doing.
Anti-corruption has so much more transparency.
Right.
Because
so how do you think, in your opinion, have you been there every day of the trial?
I haven't been actually every day because it's a lot of information to take in.
It is, yeah. I saw you at a few of them, so I wasn't sure. I just thought you had been.
Yes, I need to pace myself because I come from a background. I was involved in intense study of politics and politics at a very high level. So so we're looking at all levels of politics and how drug policy and marijuana, as cannabis as a medicine, there's so many factors that have to be looked at, and then also research is so important. So I'm glad that they brought the gentleman that gave the testimony towards a research project because more research needs to be done.
Professor Walsh.
Yes, Professor Walsh. So we all agree on that. And there's such a momentum. Like, it's not just, it's rebuilding Canadian lives. Like, to be able to grow your own is, you're taking care of your own health, and that's really important, to be responsible for your health.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that can develop into an enterprise, it can develop into goals for a lot of people, and to also uplift the standards. That it's like, it's an ongoing flux that can have.
And that was actually brought up in the courtroom. It's
Yeah.
a great example. The therapeutic value
Yes.
of growing itself.
Yes.
And of course, when you have, and I think it was Mr. Allard who made note of this, that even if he was growing other plants, it wouldn't have the same effect. The therapeutic value is in the fact that he knows that these plants that he's growing are going to help him.
Yes.
So he wants to help these plants, and
And
it's
it's
he said
the-
it's a symbiotic
It's
relationship.
the long-term benefits.
Yeah.
And a lot of the questioning, he was very on top of, because it's like, and some things, how do you know? How do you know things before they happen? When they're not sure what they're doing and they're trying to implement, do you want to shop at a corporation? Why haven't you looked into that? We already know the pricing. And one thing that a lot of people miss is that Health Canada had put out you can only use one LP per patient.
Yes.
So with one LP, there's no comparative shopping, so that one LP has price control over that person. Compassionate
anywhere yet.
pricing. Oh yeah, for one time, that was, I believe, with Peace Naturals going way back.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to it, it's pricing control, and how many plants are grown for specific strains at a certain rate. So then you do the statistics, you do the math, and overall, you're looking at a lot being suppressed, held back. And that is coming through because legalization is happening. 2 more states in the past couple of days have legalized.
Yeah, well, Alaska
What's
now.
wrong with Canada?
FCC,
Everybody's
Yes.
legalizing before Canada. We had the first medical program.
Yeah.
What goes?
I know, it's true. I really thought we would be the
Yes.
first ones to do this stuff.
Yes, 'cause
watching the United States legalize marijuana before Canada did is just like, what the fuck? It's just a crazy,
We should have won the Peace Nobel Prize.
There's so many expert growers. We have a very high standard in Canada. Horticulturalists have experienced the research that has gone in and went to build an industry that spans the globe, like it's international.
Yeah, well, and it's funny that, a lot of, they're talking about exporting our marijuana to other countries that have
Yes.
programs, and actually, hemp has been grown and it's now legal
And
in
the only
Canada,
reason why-
although the program is heavily restrictive and it's not being grown
Yes.
very
Wait a
much.
second here.
Yes.
Just me off the cut. The
That
only reason why we have a
program
medical. Here, you want
What's that? Throw that in there. Give Jade the microphone.
I mean,
Ad made a valid point, but I just wanted to make a point. The only reason why we were the first, country to have a medical system here was simply because it was a court order. It wasn't because the government wanted to. It was because our people, our sick people, finally spoke up and said, "Hey, enough is enough." So
that's Parker, right? 1988.
yeah, exactly.
Right. So
under
they gotta
court
look at-
order-
that was because for.
Who implements a program and builds a program with strategy, integrity, and so much that needs to be involved in having a program that offers fairness and efficiency, quality. There are so many people in need of choosing organic medicine for themselves to heal themselves. So there's so much involved with this, and we really need to look at. Canada is our leaders, and we can set the premise here. So really, when it comes down to it, drug policy reform is changing worldwide, and it's happening now. It's happening in the next year. There's a Geneva summit coming up. There's also, on the international front, the UN's involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're
Wait,
going
is that
to all
there's
these
the
levels.
New York one? And
Yes.
then that's the one you're talking about? Yeah.
Yes, that's up and
Wait,
coming.
what is the date of that one again? I'm forgetting the date of that, but I really want to go to that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go to that, I think. Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the
there's
Geneva
a lot
Convention
going
will
on,
make
and
a big difference.
I mean,
if
we're
we-
kind of
yeah.
missing our opportunity in a lot of ways to be on the forefront of this. We
Yes.
kind of dropped the ball. We were on the forefront of it for many years in the past, but hopefully a liberal government will
Yeah.
take care of that, maybe. We'll see.
Yes, because there's also international investments
got,
worldwide, and the more
We got
cannabis
two
has grown,
sets of coffers out here that are
Yes.
look like they're really hitting those subs hard over there.
the
Yeah,
more
okay
the more
there.
quality, healthy
Jeff,
quality cannabis is grown, like in Canada
Some good stuff
and
out there.
worldwide. Wow, we have like an impeccable industry that is on the level of every other worthy investment, like major investment, and so we can have it where it benefits everyone.
Yeah. Have you've been at all haven't you been there the entire time? I see
Yeah.
you there every single day. Are you
Yes.
going to
Yeah.
stick it out through the whole entire trial?
I'm going to try.
You're going to try?
I find it very interesting.
Yeah, it is very interesting. That's the one thing that, for me, I'm enjoying myself
Just-
because
yeah.
I'm like a law nerd, I guess. I just like it.
I feel empowered when I'm there.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we have the power now as medical patients. Our voice is going to be listened
Yes,
to.
they're being
We
heard.
have a chance to speak up.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And to participate and be a part of this process, because it's a charter challenge. It's our rights. It's our constitutional rights. The Canadian Charter. It's a very valuable political, way of perception and living. And so, protecting that is so vital. We have it. We have it. We have that power, and we have the medicine, and this medicine and this plant is been again around for thousands of years, and it's going to be the mainstay of life and really living on this planet. And
Yeah,
the
well, solve our
quality of
poverty
life.
issue.
I think you're
From
right.
every level, yeah.
Now, I want to play this video. This is John Conroy's interview with Cannabis in Canada.
Yes.
Man, they're sure slick. Huh? I love the guys who are doing the production on these Cannabis in Canada videos. They are just absolutely fantastic.
Thank
they're
you.
the guys from Press for Truth, and they got some nice cams, and they got a couple different angles they're working with. Slick editing. These
It's
guys
grown Cannabis in
no.
Canada since the early days.
Yeah.
When
No,
we
it's
started
it's
first
awesome.
filming there.
It's looking really great. No, I'm very impressed. So let's watch this Conroy interview here, and then we'll be back with more on the other side. Thank you, ladies, so much. That was awesome. I hope to see you guys there as much as possible.
Yes.
you know?
Sure, thank you, Jeremiah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, we're gonna play this.
Here from across the country.
This case is important for the patients that need it, but it could also set the template for what legalization will look like for everybody else as well.
This is a coalition in effect, a collective national unity that has raised over $250,000. We're happy to be here today, and onward we grow. All right, so here we are. This is Jason Wilcox. Welcome back to Cannabis in Canada. We're here on February 23rd, 2015 with none other than John W. Conroy, QC, on the very first day of trial. Today was an interesting day. A lot of activists came out in a show of support and unity around this case that we've become known as Allard. Mr. Conroy, can you fill us in on how you feel not only about the show of support and activism, and then maybe a little fill in on how things went today in court?
Sure. Well, first of all, let me say it's great to see the support from all of the patients. And their supporters. It's nice to see them all being able to come out, and I know many of them aren't well, and it's not an easy thing for them to do. As you know, one of the discussions in court today is simply trying to get one of our plaintiffs to court, who's unfortunately been very, very ill, is back in hospital, Tanya Beamish. So we've been working on a plan to try and work something out, hopefully using modern technology to get her at least there and be questioned herself rather than her husband David. But David will be there. So the plan at the moment is to ask the court if we can have David at 9:30, and then we're going to try to figure out a way to get Tanya in the afternoon. But it will mean David probably going to the hospital with some equipment and trying to figure.
So we would actually have to. Obviously, they're that ill. They will need to Skype this into the courtroom.
That's what we're going to try and do. Yeah, it's sort of a Skype thing. The federal court doesn't have Wi-Fi, but it does have an internet line. And it does have what most courtrooms now have. You can plug something into your computer and into their thing, and it comes up on a screen in front of the judge and a screen in front of the witness and so on. And there was a projector and screen in that courtroom today, so hopefully we talked to the registry as well, and so we're hopeful we'll get something sorted out, because we'd much rather have her. We don't want to do anything to harm her health, and that's the first order of the day. But if she's able, it would be much preferable for her to tell the court her story rather than David. But David, I know, could easily tell it, but he's not happy, and understandably so, in terms of what's happened to his wife and their entire situation, which has been just a disaster. And I think it's important for the court to hear from both of them, if at all possible. Today was, the opening day, and we heard from Sean Davey and his essentially caregiver, Brian Alexander, and I thought it illustrated well to the court what we're dealing with in terms of an individual patient who, by his own admission, did have and has had problems both with designated growers who were supposed to be friends and so on, and with trying to do it himself. And is lucky to find Brian Alexander, who has been able to help him and put him in a position where he is obviously deriving benefit from just doing it and participating. That seemed obvious to me anyway. And so we'll see how Justice Phelan sees things. It's early. It's the first day, the first witnesses. We got a lot to go. And there's a lot that won't be heard because of the nature of the procedures. I was entertained by him saying simplified action, because I must confess, it's the first one I've gone through. It's the first one I think he's gone through. And it's very different to what we're used to doing with witnesses and cross-examination and so on. And so you've had to do this huge amount of work ahead of time to put it all in writing, which then results in all these great big books that are often duplicates of what you had before, but then with all the numbers and stuff. So it's kind of an interesting procedure. But hey, we're up and running. It's been a while to get here. It's been a huge amount of work to get here, and it's finally happening. And so far so good. Hopefully we'll be able to convince the court at the end of the day that this should be allowed to continue, that it's part of one's constitutional rights, or to avoid the violation of one's constitutional rights. And the government, of course, says, well, they want this new, safe, commercial growers type of situation. And we don't have a problem with that in terms of sales to the public. If it's good. We want medicine that's sold to the public to be rigorously pursued according to all of those criteria, and available for sale to the public. But there's a difference between selling to the public, growing it and selling it to the public, and doing it for yourself. And so that's why we argue, natural health care products, food, people do this all the time and don't have to go through all those rigorous inspections, and they don't want to harm themselves. And where's the statistics of huge piles of problem? I haven't heard of any.
I was just going to ask that. Now, do you feel the government's shifting away from that fire, mold, and organized crime challenge and trumpet that they made in the beginning of all this scheme, if you have it? It just seems like they're shifting away from that and trying to make it, well, patients can afford it either way, and that's the argument now. I'm just not hearing it.
And I think there was a bit of a focus before as well. It may not have been quite as apparent, but they say the international literature and Israel and the Netherlands, the studies or statistics show that it's like between a gram and 3 grams a day, even less. But I'm not sure how completely accurate that is, we'll see. I've heard and certainly read things of Israeli patients who are waiting and waiting and waiting and trying to get more, and they're not happy with their supply. But don't forget, in Israel, apparently you only pay $100 a month for fairly high-quality stuff that the government has backed in terms of research, unlike the U.S., which, has always sort of blocked any positive research. But even still, there's a huge amount of research and information out there. It always amazes me how the doctors, medical profession, and Health Canada plays it down. We've got them switching, it seems, to the grams per day and the cost, because obviously the LPs have their basic costs. Their costs are quite understandable in terms of what they have to do, in terms of all the rules and regulations they have to follow, and they're also having some compassionate pricing for people who qualify. And, from our analysis at the moment, it doesn't seem like, certainly Mr. Davey wouldn't qualify with his motorcycle damage annuity. He's above their limits. He's on a Canada Pension Plan disability, but he also has the other one, so he'd never qualify for that. And he's explained, I thought, and as we'll argue, why he needs the amount that he needs. The statistics in Canada from Health Canada show that the average is 17 grams a day, somewhere in there. And some of them are very, very high. Some of them are much lower. It really is, I'm learning, depends upon a combination of factors. And when we put that to them, as I recall earlier, they talked about that as, that's just what's authorized, not what they're actually using. And sure, I'm sure there's some who don't use the full amount. In fact, I hear that fairly regularly. But they have security in the amount offered in case something goes wrong with their crop or whatever, so that they can, still make sure they get their medicine. So, it looks like that's what one of their arguments will be, is that, hey, if you only had 1 to 3 grams a day, you could afford a lot more from the LP. That goes to the affordability issue. And if it's your grams per day and how much your income or disposable income is. But we will argue, just as in the case of Mr. Davey, that should he have to spend half of his income on medicine every month, when he can reduce it down to I think $750 to $1,500 compared to the $6,000 or something he was paying for pharmaceuticals, and what he would be paying for an LP. So, I still have some difficulty understanding this idea that you are forced to have to buy your medicine. You can't produce it for yourself, even though you can produce natural healthcare products for yourself. Why should you be forced to go bankrupt or to incur all this extra debt if you don't have to? If there's an alternative solution by doing it yourself, because as you probably heard, our argument is that any limitations on the ability to grow a plant for yourself, even if it's an illegal or controlled plant, within the concept of the viable exemption that the courts have said should exist, having a person do that for themselves, all of the complaints of fire, mold, and electrical safety, which I don't think they're giving up on, public safety, but we hope the evidence will show that if you do it properly, it's not a problem. I understand Len Garris, in fact, I saw him on television last night, the fire guy. Maybe I better not tip him off because he's coming up in a week or so, but it sounds like his evidence is going to agree with that, if it's done properly. And that's what all the electrical people have been saying to me. We don't want to go back to people just doing it underground again and trying to hide out for their privacy. The illegal grow-ops seem to be disappearing. That's a good thing. There's cheaper equipment out there for medical growers. There's a huge supply. And so it's the huge supply in the U.S. that has destroyed the BC illegal market. And so that means less, I think they said 60 to 80% less grow-ups in Surrey, BC. Illegal grow-ups we're talking about, because the legal ones can get inspected, you make sure they're safe, electrical, fire, mold, all these things. And you know, we've talked to the experts on how easy it is to control some of these things. And so that leaves public safety. So public safety, you say, again, with Washington State, Colorado, all these developments, the oversupply or the greater supply has reduced the demand and made it ridiculous for anybody to want to rip off certainly a medical grow, knowing that a medical grow has the security and equipment and people will call the police. This isn't an underground thing anymore. And so that's, I think, you know, a positive development.
I think, as you said, they also haven't provided the stats. Just in closing, John, will there be much of a change that you think in the trial schedule? We have a lot of people have come in from all across the country for this trial. Is it 3 weeks, just straightforward from this point?
Yeah, you look at the schedule that's there. It's up on our on the webpage. Real Kapler won't be called now, so there'll be a few gaps. We've got some arguments we have to make about a few things, but at the moment it is the way it is. The only one that there maybe this changes is between Tanya Beamish and Dave Hebert because of her medical situation. So at the moment I don't see any other changes. You never know in this business, but hopefully it'll run according to plan.
As always, John, thanks for coming on Cannabis in Canada. We look forward to bringing more updates. Stay tuned, and we'll definitely be bringing you more as we continue to cover the trial as it commences in the next 3 weeks. Cheers.
All right, there we are. Now, do we have sound? Can you hear us? Can you hear me going to take a leak? It's like, at least I didn't have like a microphone actually mic'd to me. That's like a lapel mic in the bathroom, you know? Like,
that would have been nasty.
I think there's like a movie or something like that. Yeah. No, well, yeah, it just fits right into there. Are you trying to put it in there? Did you want to use it still? You can still talk to me. Here, you can still use it. I'm going to take this bong rip, but I was going to say that we were hoping that, the joint, you want this? Yeah, here, take that. I was going to say, that's okay. Mr. Urban Grower Remo himself was going to come by if it was possible, but it's already getting pretty late.
It's getting late.
And I wanted to play another video. I wanted to play one of Freddie Pritchard's videos, which goes on for, it's like a 15, 20-minute video that has some really cool stuff in it, so I wanted to play it at the end of the show. But I wanted to make sure we wrapped it up by about 7 o'clock here. So I'm not sure if we're going to get to see Remo or not. If Remo shows up before the end of the show, then we'll pop back and see if we can, so stick around to the end of the show and we'll see if Remo's here. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to make it or not. They were trying to come down. But it'd be fun to talk to him if we had the chance to. And if he does get down around 7, maybe we'll run an extra longer show and just have a little chat with him.
That was
fun.
an incredible. I can't believe that the Crown used that video.
I know, that's so funny. Oh man, so I wanted to bring up here. I'm going to try and bring up this video actually. But yeah, I'm going to take this bond rip first before I do that.
Sure.
And you guys should talk more and tell me more about what you think about the case. Now, how do you think that, do you really think that the judge is going to go along with what the government prosecutors, the government defendants are saying? Like, how do you think the judge feels about the whole thing by his body language and by the way he's acting?
I think he's discerning it properly. He has to go into the people, what's best for the people of the country. I think he's really analyzing a lot because I watched his body language. I think he's pretty balanced in his decisions and how he calls things. He's pretty with it. So I kind of felt he was on our side.
Well, he also makes a point. He's very attentive and listening because there's so many little details, especially when the Crown prosecutor is cross-examining. And the witness is like, in one sense, he's saying, "Oh, my friend, like I'm not trying to trip this up or change any of this information," and yet at the same time, his line of questioning goes to, there's some possible like contradictions, like it's contrary to that, and so that method of questioning also, it's like there's in a sense, it's not only in a sense discrediting and interrupting the process. There's certain techniques in the way that it's used that it's not beneficial, and they have to clarify a lot of these things. I can appreciate that, but yeah, the methods of questioning seem to be, whether that's with honor or how scrupulous that is. That's another debate, possibly. But, you know.
Yeah, I know. I sometimes wonder if judges get desensitized to, Crown prosecutors or defendants, using these weaselly tactics, because the judge sees this all the time.
Yes.
Every single case, when the government's involved like this, they're going to be doing things like this.
Yes.
That's essentially every single case.
Yes.
So, those judges must have to cut through that shit with, they figure out how to.
They have to be
but
really
I wonder if they
analytical.
either just eat up a lot of it and they buy it and they run with it because that's the normal process, or if they take offense to it and they're like, stop trying to be a weasel, and they go against it. Who knows? I've seen both in court before. Sometimes I've seen the judges be way loonier than the government people themselves.
And as Anne has expressed, it is a very complex process.
Very.
There are briefs, like the documents of the testimony are like major books.
Yes.
And the judge needs to go through a lot of the facts, and there's decision making involved. So, and then he's listening to, these lines of questioning, and so there's so much that he needs to take into consideration. It's a lot, and this sets the Allard trial sets historical precedents for the rest of many other cases in Canada, and many more people that come forward. Some people won't come forward, but maybe because of their concerns about their jobs or their mortgages or their families, but those are the ones that wait until it's too late. They think it's too late, and then they start considering cannabis when the person's life is at risk. So, that when it gets to that, it shouldn't get to that. Why would it get to that? Families really have to consider this is for our families, this is for our children's futures. It's our security as Canadians, It's our security, and also it's our medicine. And to be able to grow it, people that choose to want to use it recreationally, I think, it's been expressed so many times about the Colorado model, and then the models that can be used to build drug policy reform. And then in Canada, we can have a really excellent model that can be utilized globally. And then, we have a great trade, and we have a world commodity that sustains our world, and it takes care of everything, our health, our housing, all of it. So
what's scary to me, though, is that our current government seems to be on the opposite path, and that everything that they do seems to want to shut this particular, almost it's a savior in a lot of ways of all kinds of different parts of our society. I think cannabis itself, it can be, like you say, be used for all kinds of different purposes. Some of them including replacing things like dependence on fossil fuels.
Yes.
So these are essential parts of our future, and that guys like Stephen Harper and his ilk are working to basically literally eradicate from the planet.
Yes.
So,
Well, it's just like I like to see cannabis use and harm reduction in a new harm reduction model.
Right.
For drug rehab.
Yeah.
Because it's been successful of getting people off medication, prescription.
There's so many different things that
alcoholism.
cannabis is good for. And that's why I think that, it's impossible in a court case like this to really get to all of those subjects.
Yes.
Because really, John Conroy's job in this particular thing is just this very narrow path that he has to follow, and unfortunately that's the way that the court system works.
He's representing the growers, and the growers are vital to everything, because the growers they have it where they're producing organic medicine. There is quality control. Health Canada has to step up to the plate and have compliance and have accountability and be there. And they haven't, because they think it's way more of an investment when it's not. It's not even, it's a cheap investment really when it comes to it, because they need to be accountable for all the ones that participate in a program. But again, as Neil Allard has expressed, Health Canada isn't cooperating, and he's open to cooperation. We'd be open to cooperation, but Health Canada needs to play fair.
Yeah.
And
well, good luck with that happening under the Stephen Harper government. And that's why
but
everybody
I
just needs to
actually
get out and vote
Yeah.
in the next election,
Yes.
really. I mean, honestly, we don't really have any other, there's two avenues that we can fight. We can fight the political avenue to change the laws and things, or we can fight through the courts.
Yes.
And we have to
through
do
the
it on
courts.
both angles. Really, it's never going to change unless you do that. We haven't been that successful ever, really, voting people in to change things. But now we actually have an opportunity to vote in the first guy who's ever said, for running for a federal party that actually can win, that said he wants to fully legalize marijuana, not just decriminalize it.
Yes.
So I still, as much as I was just saying this in my office yesterday, I don't really like the Liberal Party very much right now. I don't like the fact
I never
that...
have.
No, I never have either. Never.
I also think
in
cannabis
fact, I used
shouldn't
to
be
hate
a
'em.
political thing.
Yeah.
It's a medical thing.
Yeah.
It's quality of life.
And I don't like the fact that they're supporting this terror bill. I think the terror bill is completely wrong. It's like against everything that this country should be standing
That's
for.
communism.
And I would have to completely support Angry Tom and the NDP on this one. But
the
I
Green
think,
Party seems to be stepping up.
86%, or what, 82 or 86%, I can't remember the number now, but of polled Canadians support the terror bill.
Yeah.
So, I think that Justin Trudeau...
That removes all rights, any thought of freedom,
I said,
Well,
I
hey, they
don't
made
give a
us
shit.
activists
I
all
don't give a shit if
terrorists.
99.999% of Canadians voted for the terror bill or went along with the terror bill. If I was the leader of a party, I would never support the terror bill. But like I said before, I guess I should not be the leader of a political party, because if I was, I would be a very bad one, because what Justin Trudeau did by 86% of Canadians supporting something, for him to go
but
against
they're
it was a
blinded
danger, would be a dangerous
because
thing.
terrorism is, in other words, government organized crime.
Is that in the name of global contracts? Like, really?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure where a lot of this stuff comes from. Who knows?
Yeah,
But it's hard to,
there's
it's
a
hard
lot
to
of business.
speculate.
There's a lot of business that happens, and it's about relationships. And again, Mark Emery expressed, Justin Trudeau is humane.
Yeah.
And when it comes to humanitarian issues in Canada, we really need to be on top of that.
Yeah.
It's so important because the UN. Wanted to be involved in and was criticizing the Harper government for its policies as far as human rights are concerned. So Canadians abroad, say for example, they're wanting to do business with seed merchants in Jamaica or to be able to have trade in South Africa or something. Then when it comes to that, when the worldwide markets embrace and the scheduling of cannabis is
Finally
taken off. Yes,
where they can actually recognize that it has medicinal value, and then we can do studies into it.
Yes, and not block
That's gonna happen.
scientific research.
One
but
day
it was
this will
a
all happen. But
pharmacopoeia.
then where will Canada be when we don't have any program at all and we suck?
Yeah.
But
So we are setting this premise and taking leadership, and all of us across Canada, in unified strength, we can really show this government that we're not backing down. And we are going to regain our health and our investment back into this country.
Yeah.
Is uplifting the standards here to Canadian
exactly.
standards and world standards.
Exactly. We're
agree
supposed to be
100%.
living in a free country. Are we?
We're gonna have to wrap things up here because
Okay.
it's 6:40 right now, and this
Yeah.
video is gonna take us to the end of the show. Johnny B in the house.
All right.
Yeah. Oh, what are you asking? Oh, I didn't hear what you said. Oh, you're trying to get your machine here because you want to do a rip?
No, yeah.
I see.
Seems like it was, it's been powering for a while, so we needed to be hitting.
You need
it.
some medication.
That's about it.
Yeah.
I got handed a joint.
Well, that's a good idea.
It's a nice thing. I've been listening. It's been great.
Thanks, Ann.
Thank you.
And thank you, Karen.
Yes.
Appreciate that for sure. Give me a hug. Thank you so much. And thank you for this very cool little stone that you gave me earlier. You gave me this awesome stone. Can I show people here?
Sure.
Where is it?
Go with your running.
It's in my pocket. There it is. Hey, Johnny, Vanna White, Johnny, will you over here show it off to the camera for me? Yeah, here, throw that. We'll trade you. Just show that off to the camera, that little thing. This is, explain to people how you made that.
This is the Canadian leaf, and I had images of cannabis with permission. And when I was at one point, I, was a healing process on my beginning of my journey. I started creating these, and it was like through the looking glass. Okay. So some of these images are reminiscent of
Thanks, Johnny.
Of a time that cannabis prohibition to end. So this one is a Canadian cannabis leaf. It's red, and Jeremiah, he lives to run, and he has a red tracksuit, and I remembered that. So I picked this leaf, this Canadian leaf.
My Adidas, my 70s Adidas suit. That's
cannabis
right.
flag.
That thing's dope. I love
So,
that
it's Canadians getting healthy and enjoying cannabis, medicine, and
That's
for
awesome.
food and good nutrition and housing and all these really awesome, great things to come.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on the show. It was awesome. And you're here a lot. Is this your first? I don't remember if I've actually had you. I think I've had you've been on a bong rip maybe or something. Yes. Yeah, you've been on the show a couple times probably. Hitting the bong. All right. Well, if Remo shows up in the interim while this video's on, we may come back after. If
Great.
not, then we'll see you guys soon. I'll be live tweeting all of this stuff from the courtroom. We've been there from early morning until it shuts down. And of course, there's Johnny B. Now, what's your Twitter feed? John B. JOHNB. Ours is Cannabis Culture.
You're going to get up-to-date Twitters on everything, the action that's happening in the courtroom.
Now, Monday... Am I related to Elvis Costello? Someone said in the chat. I like Elvis Costello. No, I'm not related to him. I've met Elvis Costello, though. Yeah, I've met him. You know, what's funny is I'm from Nanaimo, and he used to live there with his wife, Diana Krall, who's a famous Canadian. Yeah, and they used to shop at the grocery store that I worked at.
He's
and so I've
hanging
met
out
him
with
there
Elvis Costello.
and at other places. Yeah, it's funny.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, and he's a great singer. Anyways, there's a tangent. But yeah, if Remo shows up, we'll be back. If not, we'll check us out, all the shows on Pod TV. Now, right now, on Vapor Central, over the weekend and just earlier today, Chris Goodwin and his crew were doing live broadcasting on the Vapor Central feed.
Good.
They were on a Cannabis tour across Toronto.
Yeah, right
There's
on.
a Canadian Students for Sensible Drug Policy event going on there.
It's educational.
Now you can find out more information about that at the front page of pot.tv, of course. And so go there and check that out. I'm not sure how late the feed goes or when the early one is on tomorrow or what's going on tomorrow, but it'll definitely be on the front page of Pot TV, and follow the link and you can find out.
Okay, good.
Yeah. And I'm going to play this video for you guys. If not, we'll see you guys soon. Keep checking us out. Love you guys. Love you, Pod TV.
Yes, love.
Oh, and my last thing. I was just about to.
Now.
This is what I was gonna do instead of the peace sign
For
today.
patience.
I was gonna do this instead of the peace sign.
For patience. For your loved ones.
Did you guys hear what happened today? What? A big hero of mine, Leonard Nimoy, passed away. Yeah. Mr. Spock.
Yes.
Yeah. Admiral Spock or Captain Spock or whatever he was.
He supported, he loved women, he loved photographing plus-size women.
He
I
lived
bet he
long
was
and
so
prospered.
awesome. Spock. It's an awesome guy. Peace.
All right. Peace, Pod TV. We'll make sure the sound works this time.
Here at Georgia and Granville, down here at the Allard versus the Queen case, which is a monumental case here in Canada. Last year on April 1st, the government taken away the people's rights to grow their own gardens and have designated growers in favor of the large producers.
Well, the MMR Coalition got together and put a stop to that, and they got a injunction granted. So on Monday, it's Wednesday today, on Monday the 21st, or the 23rd, was the first day in court for the trial. I'm out here with my friend, and we're protesting on the third day. So far, it sounds like they've been questioning, amounts per patients, talking about molds, stuff like that. It seems like it's a slow process, but we're going to keep you briefed for the people across the coast that really, really want to know what's going on here. We're going to keep you briefed on what's going on here, and we're going to try to bring you video footage of all the goodies and the things that are going on in the courtroom. Until then, we'll see you later.
Yeah, very symbolic, I think, Harper's the big bully here, and Health Canada's the big bully here for sure.
Yeah, I guess that would be true. Harper is a big bully.
Well, this is insane, isn't it? I mean, you're public servants trying to, using tax dollars to fight against people having their own little herbal garden and providing their own medicine for themselves. Like, this is insanity. This is insanity.
Yeah, and not to mention they've been allowed to grow for 13 years now? 12 years.
The elephant in the room, of course, is that they don't want them doing this because then you don't spend money on pharmaceutical drugs, and that's what they want. Is they want you to get your arthritis medicine from their pharmaceutical benefactors. So that's what they don't talk about. What they do talk about is that they're going to shut down people from growing, mostly because there's a diversion going on of some of that marijuana, that some people are growing more than that they should, and then they're selling it. So I guess their issue is that Canadians are having money that they shouldn't have, right? There's a problem with people having money in this country by your public servants or something like this. Where is there a crime? Where is there some injury to somebody? Where is there some damage being done by people having herbal gardens? I don't get it.
Yeah, that's what I think too. It's greed.
They're not talking about it in there either. They're not pointing to anything in there that's other than, well, people are making some money on the side. They're not talking about anybody ever getting harmed. They're worried about, how come you had your amount of cannabis up from 10 grams to 20 grams a day by your doctor? I mean, but they're not talking about that as if because there's some problem with that, because people are getting addicted to marijuana and then they're showing up in hospitals and they're dying of overdose. No, it's nothing about any of that. That's not their concern. It's not about there's not enough marijuana out there and you shouldn't be taking 20 grams a day because other people can't get some. It's not about that. It's about nothing. They're up there, this is not right. Well, what's not right about it? If somebody's not getting hurt and somebody's getting helped, what's not right about that?
Exactly.
So I'm a little pissed that we're here, that this is going on, that our tax dollars are being used at all. This is really a travesty and hopefully the last gasp of a failed policy on prohibition that has never been about protecting people or citizens and always been about protecting corporations and our government's ability to control us and make money off of us. So, this hopefully will be the last gasp and we'll get a good ruling out of this, and that should send the message right across Canada to law enforcement that laws that should be enforced involve people hurting other people, not having possession of some flowers because it helps with arthritis and stress.
Right on.
And by the way, Harper stresses me out, man.
Yeah.
And, you need stress medicine in a world where you got Stephen Harper as Prime Minister. That's for damn sure.
Well, right on. Thanks for talking to us, Neil. It's the One Man Smoke Show down at the courthouse.
What's going on up there?
Well, everything is good. Neil's been really giving great testimony. And the government prosecutor's been trying to drill Neil the whole time. It's been all Neil the entire time. And he's just been drilling him, and Neil's been getting the best responses. Awesome. Absolutely perfect. So it's been looking good.
Any other hardcore tidbits?
I got this, man. And the government tried to we're recording.
Yeah,
so the government.
I'm just capturing whatever I can today, Jared.
The government's been trying to make hay of the whole idea that without regulations, the grows themselves are dangerous. One of the things that the government has to do today, or in the next 3 weeks, is prove that grow-ops are actually dangerous to patients and their neighborhoods. And that's the only way they're actually going to be able to take the grows away from people. They have to be able to prove this, right? So I think the government council continues to try and inflate the dangers of grow-ops. And he was asking Neil Allard today about whether he tests his marijuana and how important that whole aspect of testing is, and regulations and testing and things like that. And Neil brought up a point. He said, "Well, are you saying that when I go and pick an apple off my apple tree, that it's dangerous if I don't have it tested?" And the government council said, "Well, if it's a rotten apple, it could be dangerous." But really, of course, Neil was really great at showing that people are responsible enough to look at cannabis, to try cannabis, to use it, and it's not dangerous. That if it does have mold or something, it's not going to hurt you or kill you.
Yeah.
You can take a look at your cannabis and you can measure yourself. You don't need some governmental organization to look at every piece of cannabis you have and to decide whether it's safe for you or not. That's ridiculous. Just like on an apple tree, you don't need the government inspector to come along to your apple tree and say, "This one's rotten, you better not eat that." That's right. So I think that Neil was very good at sort of combating some of those attacks from the government. I keep saying prosecutor, but they're the defendants. The governments are the defendants in this case. We're going after them.
Yeah, that's rare too.
Yeah, it's a constitutional challenge. So.
Well, I know it's break and you're cold. Thanks for taking some time.
Yeah, man. I didn't even know you were recording at first. Or I wouldn't be talking to Cam.
We'll get the word out there.
Yeah, man. Great job out here. How's it all going outside here?
It's good. It's a little bit low in numbers, but we're good. We're getting some bumps. We're getting some people to stop by.
We think it's really cold.
What's going on?
I know.
And it's cold. Yeah, it's a little chill.
Sorry about that, people in Toronto.
Yeah, no, they're a little colder than we are.
Calgary and Alberta and everywhere
well,
else.
Today the courtroom's been a little bit more packed. There was over 25 people in there when I did my last count, roughly that.
Yeah.
And, though I know it's a little slow out here, I think just, we have 15 days of this. So it's going to take a little bit of time. I guess I was a little hard on people yesterday when I was like, where is everybody? But
I don't think so.
No, I think
the honesty was right bang on,
Yeah, I think it's good to be down here and support because I think it does have an effect on the judge. If the judge sees a courtroom packed with people, he knows a lot of people care about this issue.
That's right.
So we want to make an impression that this isn't just a couple, marijuana patients who are like, hey, it's my grows. This is 40,000 people across Canada.
That's right.
This
and
is
that's
huge.
your call. Your call to come down here the next 3 weeks. 701 West Georgia. Going to be here every day.
Allard.
Right on. Peace. Thanks, buddy.
No, I'd like to give away some bud busters.
Yeah.
Make some goodwill.
There's Brian down here at the Allard case. Brought us a bunch of these bud busters, folks. Look at this. 100 bud busters, man. If you guys come down here in the next 3 weeks, you might get a free bud buster. Come on down here and show your support. 710 West Georgia.
I hate to bribe you to do the right thing.
701, that is.
701, that is. We hate to bribe you, but we will.
Neil Allard did an amazing job. He just totally outwitted the government council was trying to basically pick apart every little thing that he was doing and saying. And Neil was just absolutely fantastic. He stood strong, didn't fall for the traps that the government guy was giving him. And actually, he ended up making the government council look kind of silly because the government council kept screwing up and giving the wrong numbers, saying erroneous, making erroneous claims. And Neil just was like perfectly, solemn through the whole thing, didn't get upset, was just absolutely the best job he could have done. So
awesome.
Really worked for us.
That's awesome.
I had a study into access to cannabis and who's using it and who's not and why and all of that. And the federal prosecutors are, just nitpicking, trying to get him to, say that his study is not valid. He said, well, there are limitations to your study. He said, well, there's limitations to all studies. I mean, no study is ever comprehensive. And but in our case, the strengths of the sample size that we used and the type of questions and things, it balances out any limitations that are there. So he tried to get him on that to say that, you don't really get to this truth or that truth. Then he wanted to know about why people don't get access through their doctors, and people find it hard to get a doctor to give them access. And the prosecutor's like, well, that could be because many of these people have self-diagnosed themselves with something and they're using cannabis for that, but when they go to their doctor, the doctor doesn't agree with them, and that kind of stuff. So anyway, he said no, there was 5 basic categories of things that came up as reasons why doctors weren't granting access, and that wasn't one of them. And also with
it seems like they're, from what you and Jason were saying, it kind of seems like they're looking for harm. Like they're looking for ways that marijuana could harm. With some of their line of questioning. pushing, and then
they're just trying to poke holes in this study that showed that it's really the program's not working.
Yeah.
That with doctors as the gatekeepers, people aren't being able to get access like they should be able to get access. And he came up with a bunch of really good reasons why that was the case, that are the case. And the prosecutor's just trying to say, well, I know it's a remote possibility, but what if this is what they were thinking instead of that?
I see.
And then same with not many people that have gotten their exemptions are actually accessing their cannabis through the MMAR distributors.
Yeah.
And why would that be the case? And he says, do you think that's the case because they don't agree with the ideology? And he says, well, no, I have no reason to suspect that at all. It's the pricing, it's a bunch of other things, it's the affordability. Okay. And so he was also bugging him about how you determine whether or not it's affordable or not. And he says, well, we use actual proper formulas for deciding on what a person's income is and whether or not they have to sacrifice some of their other things in their life if they want to actually buy medicine and buy cannabis with it. So.
Yeah. Well, all right, that's pretty
Here's a solid witness. A solid witness for sure. And the prosecutor, once again, they're grasping at straws. They got nothing. They're just trying to find the slightest little remote thing and say, aha, and even there it's not there. So.
Good. Well, that's a good sign. So things are looking good in the courtroom.
I'd say so. We could use more people.
I heard Neil spoke and was really powerful for us.
Yeah, this morning
I can't believe it this morning. Okay, we're around. Hey, look at folks. It's Brian Taylor. How you doing, sir?
Here visiting visiting from Grand Forks to the big city.
Yeah, no, welcome to Vancouver.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's interesting to see all the people.
Yeah.
Lovely to go to a restaurant and sit down and have a beer and a meal and not have people.
That's
nice being anonymous.
Oh, I hear what you're saying. No, that's good to know. So what do you think of what's going on down here?
Well, it's painfully slow upstairs. I'm certainly pleased to see the demonstration on the streets, but man, it gives you real appreciation for why these things have to be ground out by a lawyer when you sit up there and you listen to how they split hairs and battle over nuances. It really takes a professional, and John and his team are doing great. Kurt and John together.
Good, that's good news. We've been hearing good things coming out of the courtroom where the prosecutors, or I guess they're not the prosecutors because we're going after them, right? So, and their side is saying, they're just kind of they're kind of walking on eggshells, it looks like. They don't have a lot to stand on is what I'm getting.
They were trying to discredit a study today, and the kind of annoying, repetitive questions to me said that the prosecutor there had no idea really how to defend against this other than to attack the basic principles of the study, which to me was more like they were going to give him an A or B in process. It didn't even deal with the content. He was limited to attacking the process of the study. So they seem desperate.
Yeah. How long are you staying?
I'm going to come back tomorrow.
Oh, right on. Well, we'll hope to see you down here.
All right.
Thanks a lot, Brian.
Thank you.
Thanks. Oh, and Brian brought down 100 grinders, folks. We're passing out some grinders. So come on down here and get a free grinder. Thanks, buddy. Looks like court's coming out, folks. It's the end of the day. Hey, Jeremiah, any big news? You got a minute?
Yeah, sure.
Any big news out of the court on the third day?
Oh, man, well, I think our team did a great job today. I was really impressed with both the expert witness who spoke, Walsh, and Neil Allard, who spoke for the morning. They both did just a remarkable job.
Yeah.
We actually got into some of the science of cannabis production. We got into some of the, a study called CAMPS that was related to how many people actually use medical marijuana and then how many people use the Health Canada program. There's a big disparity there. Apparently, according to the study, 86% of people using medical marijuana don't use the program, are not enrolled in it.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, that's good. We were a little loud out here.
Well, some of the chanting and stuff, you can hear it in the courtroom.
Amazing. Wow.
Yeah, I know. It's really not that quiet up there. We
Should
can
be
hear everything
soundproof.
that's going on down the road. So, yeah, we can hear you guys chant and stuff. But I think we sent a message saying, hey, keep it down a little bit.
Yeah, we got the message.
Yeah, because we really could actually hear it. It was actually disrupting the courtroom. So.
We'll keep it down out here further in the future.
You know what? I appreciate the chanting myself. So, but it's just.
Was it the Harper has
I think
to go?
The judge. Yeah, I think it was that. Yeah, I don't know how much the judge appreciates it, but.
Well, that's great, Jeremiah. We're going to be down here again tomorrow morning.
How was it out here today for you guys?
It was pretty good.
Pretty good. We had a presence all day.
Cold and rainy now,
Yeah, but we had people and we had signs, and so we're
We
good.
got our great signs here, amazing stuff. You guys are doing a great job out here.
That's good. Yeah, we're
Thanks for
talking
getting some footage and stuff too, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. We were talking to Brian Taylor just now, and he's talking about how they seem to be nitpicking.
Yeah, all completely. Oh man, that again today with the government council really getting into the minor details of every little thing, because every little detail they're really analyzing. Of course, what they're doing is they're trying to draw the witnesses out to either make mistakes or say things that they can use against them in some shape, form, or fashion. I think Conroy and his team are probably questioning the witnesses a little bit less at this point because they have the affidavits and they say everything that wants to be said. Getting them to talk too much isn't always good, because then they make mistakes and they get picked apart and stuff. So hopefully when the government starts bringing out their witnesses, the Conroy team will really cut them down to size too.
Awesome.
Hey folks, we'll go for a ride. Spring here. It's like the 24th of February, springing. We're just coming back from the Allard injunction, or the Allard trial. And, I don't have a garden that I'm looking to get saved. And I don't have an exemption or a license that says that I'm allowed to smoke cannabis. But I do know that I get relief myself from cannabis. I don't need doctors or anybody to tell me that. I don't need anybody. I've seen firsthand the benefits of giving somebody a bag of weed and how it affects them and how it helps them. It alleviates their pain being the biggest one. But I don't see how a government can, give somebody the license to grow or designate somebody to grow cannabis for them. But and they have that right for like 10, 12 years in Canada, and then say, hey, we're taking it away now because we're in favor of you buying your cannabis from a large producer. And that's what's going on in Canada right now with Canada medical marijuana. Last April 1st, the government shut down all of the gardens that people were growing for themselves in favor of those large producers. And that's where you got to get your cannabis now. But a coalition got together, the MMR coalition, they got together and said, you know what, no way, you're not taking my garden. And they went to court and they got an injunction, and the injunction meant trial. So here we are now. It's February 24th, almost a year later, and the trial began on Monday the 23rd. Today's the 25th. It's the third day of the trial, and we were down there for that. So I mean, what does everybody think out there? Do you think, number one, do you think people should be allowed to grow their own cannabis as medicine? And I guess number two is, does the government even have the right to take away what's been law for 10 or 12 years here? So you can see the states, they're moving forward left and right with state after state getting medical marijuana. Not over here. Over here, the government wants it in favor of large producers. Now, the large producers, one of them, Tilray's, selling the cannabis for $14 a gram, folks. So you say to yourself, how does anybody afford that? I think it's all stupid myself. They're in court nitpicking over you know, how many grams do you use in a day and how much a gram, and you know, when you grow marijuana, there's mold. It's like they're trying to pick out and just find reasons, you know, for somebody to make a mistake. And it's weird because it's almost like if you make a mistake, you're going to do something really wrong, you know. So that was day 3, folks. For those that are interested in what's going on with our medical marijuana and are sick and dying, that use cannabis to alleviate their pain, their symptoms of their other illnesses. Indeed, there's a link online to 700 benefits of medical marijuana listed in order of disease. If you Google 700 benefits of cannabis, you'll come to it. There's several of them, but they're all lined up, eh? You can see all the reports. It's like, enough's enough, you know? Why aren't they legalizing is what I'm wondering. Like, why? So yeah, I never went into the court today. I stayed outside. There was, John Barfello came down and was like, you guys got to keep it down. You're disrupting the courtroom. And we were like, yelling, stop Harper, Harper's got to go and stuff like that. And he was right, you know, he was right in doing that. But geez, we're pretty amazed 8 floors up on a busy street like that, he could hear us. We didn't think we were that loud, but, you know, I guess you could say we got the message into the courtroom today. But I hope it didn't upset the judge. That's a given, you know. You don't want to piss off the guy because, you know, you're dealing with somebody who can basically do it in favor any way he wants. You know, if he's a fair and honest judge, he won't. But if you piss off certain people, they might just decide to judge against you. Do you know what I mean? So we got to be civil down there, and we got to be calm, cool, and collect because it's not a protest. I mean, I guess we could call it that, but it's not. It's a court case, and at a federal level, which means, you know, they're going to be serious. They're going to look at anything we do as shenanigans. You know, so you don't want to be fucking shenaniganing around. And it's good because there's a lot of people out there that this affects in Canada. And there was no media coverage down there today, which was really weird. They only seemed to be down there that first day. I didn't see many pictures or any videos or anything out of there. So the one-man smoke show is going to step up a little bit, do our part. And we're going to be trying to get down there whenever we can, and we're not tied up with work. And when we're not tied up with work, we can, you know, bring you guys a little more info on a daily basis, or every couple days we can maybe make a video and show you guys. So this is for my Canadian watchers, and those people that this directly affects, which is the 35,000 growers that are growing in Canada.
Come on down. Help us out.
Could use some more people down here.
Yeah, man.
Some supporters. If you got any time off, here in the local area, come on down here. Every day, Monday to Friday.